Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Hope you're all having a fantastic evening. We sure are, because, of course, this is the Southeast Asia region. We're going to be covering the seventh and last weekly cup here for the spring season. I'm not going to be the only one doing the talking. I do have my comrade in arms here. It is, of course, Beneficus. How are you
Hello.
holding up, man?
It's been pretty good, so very excited to see again. This is probably going to be basically a replay of last week, what we saw,
Yeah.
because it's going to be again the same teams, if I'm not mistaken, meeting in these semis, and of course, looking forward to those grand finals again.
Yeah, the grand finals, the third and fourth place decider, and of course the semifinals. That's pretty much how our day is going to be working out here. Of course, we're going to be starting things off here with the semifinal. I do think there's still a couple of matches to be maybe played out to still realize who's going to be there in the top four. In fact, let's take a look at the bracket right now as we do have the teams here. For those who might be wondering, where on earth is Damage Gaming? Well, let me tell you, folks, Damage Gaming have now renamed to Cyclone GG. They've been picked up by a new organization.
Yeah, new week, new organization, new opportunities for them, and they're going to be going ahead against Prestigious here in those first brackets. And in the second, we're going to see Unkilled going up against Indian Wolves yet again. So, as always, super curious to see what things will change from the last week, what sort of deductions have teams made after their matches, and of course, I would say that last week was pretty intense. Definitely was action-packed. I'm pretty sure that it's going to be the same scenario this week as well. But before that, let's have a look at the standings and see exactly how many points each of these teams have.
Yeah, in the number one place, surprise, surprise, we do have Cyclone GG. They're sitting at a very comfortable 575 points, and pretty much they've already booked themselves a spot there in the Pro Series Finals in Brazil. Right now, I think they're just playing it here for the money, which is quite understandable.
Money is one thing, and of course, there's always a point to be proven towards everyone else here. In the second position, we do have Indian Wolves, who have put up a very decent fight throughout this spring season, and they are currently sitting at 425 points, and just beneath them, 100 points behind, is Unkilled roster, sitting at 325. And the fourth and fifth position is dealt between Prestigious and, oh my god, is J007. So it looks like for J007 as well, they haven't been that lucky to actually get to the semis so far.
No, they really haven't. I think even this time around, I think might have fallen somewhere in the quarterfinals, which is a bit of a shame because there's a high possibility that once you go through the top 16 to the quarterfinals, there's a very high probability that you will meet a team like Cyclone, Prestigious, Unkilled, or Indian Wolves. So yes, when you're outside the top four, it's like very difficult to battle it out against teams like that of such a high caliber in this region.
Yeah, and especially knowing that you have to go up against them every single week. So every single week you have the prospect of facing these, I must say now, Titans already at this point. Especially also speaking of Cyclone GG, and previously known as Too Easy for All-Stars. Last week they were Damage Gaming. This week they're Cyclone GG. Hopefully they're going to remain like that, as we're going to have start troubles of keeping up with the names simply here. But indeed, Cyclone GG, just a very dominant force currently in this spring season. And I mean, I would be very interested to see how, of course, they will progress further on in Brazil.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because the Pro Series Finals are going to be taking place, I do believe, on the 8th of June. So that's going to be very exciting to see teams from the North Americas, from Europe, and of course from Latin America as well, because there were some problems. Last time around they weren't able to make it to the Texas Finals, which was a bit of a shame. So now maybe this time around, let's hope that they will succeed.
Yeah, it's retaliation time for the boys here as well. Slightly unfortunate that we don't get to see any Australian teams making it so far.
Yeah, that's quite peculiar because I think from time to time we do see that team by the name of Derv. I think that's how you call them. They end up playing these many weekly cups. They've played, I think, pretty much every single one of them, but they haven't had the most amount of success. It's been pretty much dominated here by the teams from India.
All right, well, enough of theory talk here. We're going to be jumping into the match soon enough. Of course, the first map is going to be Paradise Island, notoriously known for very fast beginnings, a lot of flanks happening, lots of explosions being used. There are sniper opportunities on this map as well, so I would be super excited to see if anyone will be picking things up like that. I do believe so. The first match is going to be between Cyclone GG and Prestigious, where historically last week, if I'm mistaken, it was last week where we saw Prestigious actually holding up pretty good against them, but Question is how they will be able to do it today here in the studios as well. And question, of course, for Cyclone GG, knowing that they have secured that first spot, do you think they're going to play out these games in a more simple fashion, knowing that they really cannot be caught up at this point, or do you think they're going to go guns blazing and just go all out and just make sure that they can quickly stroll through these games just to start celebrating faster?
Like, that's the thing, Beneficos. I think if you're a team like Cyclone GG, you've already booked yourself a spot in the Pro Series finals. Do you even have to play cups like this? To be honest, not really, but this is always a good opportunity for some of the lesser teams to still get the practice in against a high-caliber opponent like Cyclone GG. But, yeah, the point you mentioned there earlier, in all fairness, if you're a team like Cyclone GG, do you really have to play this one with your hearts out as you did the mini cups beforehand? You know you've got the spot. This is just maybe for the funsies even.
For the funsies, one thing, but second thing, you already previously did mention it's those $400 on the line.
Oh, yes.
$400 is definitely a good motivator, of course, to jump into your matches. And speaking of jumping into matches, let's see how these teams handle Paradise Island. King of the Hill scenario here. Of course, super valuable capture point in the very middle of the map. A lot of flanking routes here all around. And of course, let's see who comes out with the better aggression here early on.
Let's get it on, shall we, folks? We aren't seeing a bit of a flank coming in there from Blaze. That's a Blade Master, of course. How else you'd like to get the flank done? And now look at this scenario. This is working out very well here for Cyclone GG, as they are able to eliminate pretty much every single player from Prestigious, and they have the point.
They have the point indeed. Exorder even pushing forward here. There's two of these Prestigious players slightly stuck towards that pathway. Now they're making their way towards that point. Chatri able to take down Blaze here. And looks like with the help of Tekken and Boxer as well on that capture point, it's actually going to be recaptured. But Heisenberg with the G launcher there, just very quickly taking care of Chatri in that situation. Now Blaze also finding Mighty towards that right-hand side from his perspective, as Boxer now making a desperate attempt towards that side. Chachi again with the G-Launcher here. So G-Launchers being traded left and right. Double elimination coming out from Heisenberg. Even the triple with the Blade Master on top here. My God, Cyclone GG have shown up today with lots of firepower.
They sure have. Heisenberg is the one who knocks. He's able to find the score, and look at this. This is such a good scenario for Cyclone GG. They're going to continue on pushing forward, and Heisenberg, he's not slowing down. He's there with the Avalanche, and he's going to secure another elimination. Like, he is doing such a solid job here for the team that I wouldn't be too surprised if this, in fact, will be a Cyclone GG victory.
And only in a minute and a half, a 200-point lead above Prestigious right now for Cyclone GG, and they're not looking to stop at all here as Gunnar pushing forward here. Might even find Mighty, but he actually turns around here to put some shots towards Chatri down now on the flank. Heisenberg just continuously finding these opportunities, goes for the Blade Master, but unfortunately Tekken does come out on top in that one. Mighty on the spot, trying to capture the point, but Blaze with a double elimination unfortunately will go down to Boxer there, who comes in with that perfect aim, deals a lot of damage onto Gunnar here as well. And now Heisenberg might go down here, does manage to get Boxer, but can he get away to pop those heals and make sure he can re-engage yet again?
We are seeing Blaze battle it out. He will secure that elimination. And already, you know, the Prestigious players, yes, they have respawned. They could very easily continue on with the push here, but the problem is, like, these flanking players like Blaze, they have been quite the nuisance for their side. Now we are seeing an individual like Mighty coming on through here. He should and will, yes, he will get the Blade Master, in fact, on Heisenberg in that position. And now the Prestigious players have respawned. They're very much clumped up there, but the explosive, it's not as effective as it probably could have been.
There were two G launchers that didn't really connect with these Prestigious players, and they still managed to control the point. Now Heisenberg desperately trying to make a change in that fact. Unfortunately, Tekken did manage to find him there. Blaze, though, now able to trade yet again. Here is a backwards and forwards fight here happening as the explosive just continuously put on the ground, but it doesn't matter as Gunnar just comes out on top of everything.
But this is still good, you know. The Prestigious players, they're able to fight here. They're going to continue on here with the pushes, the aggressiveness. That's what they need at this point. This map, it is coming to a close. And with a whole minute and 40 seconds remaining, it's still enough time for them to make the comeback happen. But he has to start now. This push is everything. They are able to deter the players thus far, but they're coming in hot here. There's going to be Blaze with the Avalanche. And so far, the point looks like it will be recaptured here. Cyclone will try to secure it.
It looked very hopeful for Prestigious in that moment. Now they have the opportunity to clean things up here as both Tekken and Boxer open things up now. Heisenberg trying to change the tides of the game, gets the Blade Master. Unfortunately, Boxer does managed to get him. Gunner now in big trouble, but the perfect aim comes through for him, and thus securing those valuable points. Now looking to recapture the capture point, and I think this is going to be it for Prestigious here.
Looks like it, Beneficos, as the last elimination is going to be going there for X-Horder, and that is going to be it, folks. Our very first map has concluded in a, I'd say, in a pretty decisive fashion there from Cyclone GG.
It was a pretty decent 200-point lead. Prestigious did manage to close it down to roughly about 130 towards the latter stage of the match, but in general, it looks like Cyclone GG was pretty much in control the whole time. Now, I must say, I was super surprised where there were 3 Prestigious players on the capture point, and 2 G launchers were launched their way, and none of them really did connect entirely. There was some splash damage dealt to them, but not really enough to take those players down. So I did thought that was the moment where Prestigious are going to be able to overtake the lead in this match, but definitely Heisenberg and co have definitely different things to say about the match, and obviously looking towards to grabbing that first map. So let's have a look at the MVPs and see where we stand after this first map. Who's the man of the hour for either side? For Cyclone GG, as expected, Heisenberg, 267 score, eliminations 13 of them, and 6 assists as well. So super solid job coming out from him, doing slightly more than a quarter from what is needed from his team in order to get that first victory.
And of course, here for Prestigious, we do have Chatri, 206 score, 10 eliminations. That is a pretty fine scoreline. It is a bit of a shame, though, that his team, they still weren't able to come out on top, though. That's the thing, you mentioned one of the parts of the map where the G launchers were launched. That was in the middle portion where the control point is stationed at. That could have been the game changer, to be honest. Who knows? Maybe if Cyclone would have secured them, that could have been it. That could have easily been a more decisive Cyclone victory. But in all fairness, the Prestigious roster, they showed up quite well here in the Paradise Island. It was, at the very end, somewhat of a close affair.
Well, they've always been good on Paradise Island as far as we have watched, and I do think that trend will continue in the next seasons as well. Question is, how will they be able to hold up against Cyclone GG on Old Factory?
Yeah, that's going to be problematic, I'd say, for the roster of Prestigious, because the thing is, Cyclone GG, they're a very good team on that map, in fact. From what I've seen, in fact, they have, a 100% win rate on Old Factory throughout the spring season. They played it 9 times, and they won it 9 times. Now that is a very well-placed map.
If Prestigious Gaming, if Prestigious have watched that statistic, I'm pretty sure they feel slightly intimidated going into this match now on Old Factory, but they absolutely need to nail the victory here if they want to take this to map 3.
Yeah, because, Old Factory is going to be a bit of a struggle for a team like Prestigious, obviously, but they can still pull it through. I mean, this is in fact the best of 3. Say you don't have the best of maps, say the first map. Then if you bounce back on the second map, you secure a victory. Then if you secure a victory on the third map, look at this, you've actually won yourself the semifinal. So there's still a possibility of a team like Prestigious to still make it through. It's obviously going to be a bit more complicated, may I say so myself, because Old Factory is a pretty fine map here for Cyclone.
All you need is a bit of luck and a bit more of those Blade Masters and double, triple eliminations, that's for sure. So question is, how will they play? Will they start splitting again towards the either sides of the map, or do they decide to stay more together focused as a group? Again, question is, what will they do with the middle portion of the map? If I'm not mistaken, last week we did saw a few plays coming out from Heisenberg himself, if I'm not mistaken, where he did go pushing straight through the middle and instantly either towards left or right to flank behind enemy lines whilst they were busy with his teammates. So I do think that Cyclone GG have a very clear idea as to how they would like to play this map for Prestigious. Pretty much anything goes right now, is sitting in week number 7. Question is all about obtaining those points and just making sure that you can rack up those extra victories here.
And I guess it's a good opportunity as any to actually discuss, Old Factory a little bit. We obviously know that a map like Old Factory does have this elevated surface there in the middle. And the great thing about this elevated surface there is that if you do have players there, you can actually get some decent flank routes, because while you're up there, on that platform, you can very easily jump down, get the flanks on your opponents. That's something a lot of teams haven't been able to use it too often throughout here the Southeast Asia region. At least from what I've noticed, primarily it's the fights that happen there in middle, on the left side, on the right side of the map, and yet they're not able to use the map to its fullest advantage, to its fullest potential.
So you're saying that Prestigious could throw in a curveball for Cyclone GG here and some sort of try to, I wouldn't necessarily want to say abuse, but make use of the elevated services.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. That's the thing. That's what I'm talking about. If you're not going to be using every single advantage you have in your disposal at the cards that have been drafted to you, then what are you doing? Like, you have to use every single possible angle that you can use to your advantage in order to secure the victory. That's the whole point of here at Guns of Boom.
Of course, and I also would like to see if Cyclone GG now securing their first map it doesn't really look like they're going to play in a more relaxed pace. Perhaps that's something that might happen here on this map, giving, of course, Prestigious more opportunities to pick it up here. So, of course, now just waiting for the players to join the server. I'm just super stoked to see how Prestigious will be able to deal with Cyclone GG. And of course, for Cyclone GG, now under the new organization yet again, they have more things to prove to that organization.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's a new name. They want to try to prove that they are the best, and thus far they're doing a fine job at it. I mean, they have the #1 seed here in the spring season, sure, but obviously there will be such a thing like the summer season, so who knows? Maybe someone could actually dethrone a team like Cyclone, but thus far, I mean, spring season is pretty much over here, folks, and Cyclone GG have proven to be a very formidable opponent here throughout the entirety of the 7 weeks.
Indeed, and if this does go to map #3, which would be Europe Square, do you think either side really has some sort of like benefits in their side in terms of playing this map?
I think one of the main factors we can definitely discuss when talking about Europe Square is that it is a pretty big map. In comparison to the other maps here at Guns of Boom, like, Europe Square is pretty large, and one of the things that you really need on a map like that is communication. Unlike any other map, to be honest, when they're pretty small, you can try to get the flanks in relatively quickly. You can probably make a lot of solo plays. On a map like Europe Square, that's also control points. That's the thing we have to mention. You need that communication, and communication is going to be very key on who's going to go where, what are the positionings you're planning on taking, what sort of flanking routes you want to take, and maybe one of your teammates to follow. That is very much key here on a map like Europe Square.
And in general, always communication is key, regardless of what sort of team-based game you are playing. Of course, being in Guns of Boom, I think it's super valuable to make sure that you always have backup, you always have follow-up on your side, just to make sure that just in case if you go down in that one-on-one battle that you're having right now, so your teammate can instantly trade and make sure that those points essentially don't go to waste or don't come for free for the opponent. That's pretty much how you keep a close gap between the points during the match.
Yeah, exactly. Like in, say, Team Deathmatch, this is the game mode where it really depends on the eliminations. Like, the more eliminations you're going to get, probably you're going to be able to come out on top on a map like, say, Old Factory. So it is going to be very important to not only to be going out there by your lonesome, trying to get things done your way, John Wayne, but it is important to have teammates back him up, that you could actually get those eliminations. Say you don't succeed, but you have your partner close by you, he can get the elimination and still put the scoreline in an even fitting.
Yeah, I'm also curious to see if Heisenberg is going to end up being the MVP yet again. I think he's pretty good. Saying he's pretty good on the eliminations is probably underrated, as he is in the overall standings, if I'm not mistaken, leading by the amounts of eliminations he has gotten through this season here. So I would be actually slightly surprised if it would be someone else showing up from his team. But again, it's not a one-man army. There are 4 very able people on the side of Cyclone GG, and on the side of Prestigious, I would like to see if Chatri is going to be the man of the hour for them. If I'm not mistaken, he did obtain MVP last week on that second map.
Yeah, by the statistics, to be honest, I think from the roster of Cyclone GG primarily, I think 2 of the players, probably, Heisenberg and Blaze, I'd like to say. I'm not really sure if that is the case, but they're by far, the highest fragging individuals throughout the Southeast Asia region here in the spring season. So yeah, it's good to be having practices like that. And there we go, folks. Our second map is upon us. It is going to be Old Factory Team Deathmatch, so let's get it on.
Let's get it on indeed, as the players are already in the server here. We're going to be going live in roughly a second. As you can see, very quickly, Cyclone GG are going to be moving out and actually taking control of that elevated surface here. Heisenberg opening things up with that first strike. Excorder on the left-hand side, struggling a bit, but does manage to get Chatri. Eventually, Gunner even gets a Tekken, and so far, Prestigious have yet to put up a point.
Yeah, so far it's Cyclone GG finding all the necessary elimination. Finally, Boxer is able to retaliate, but the scoreline difference is pretty massive here. Look at Blaze go, even though the man's on fire, he still gets the Blade Master from the grave. Of course, that is a lot of points now being racked up here by Cyclone GG.
Mighty now with a very good explosive, deals so much damage to Exorder, finishes his arm off him quickly as he goes now on the flank here. I don't think he saw Blaze, but definitely noticed the other players now. Boxer making use of the elevated surface here, sees Exorder on the right-hand side, but Exorder comes out on top with that perfect aim, and Heisenberg finds yet another elimination for himself. Even Blaze now on the left-hand side of the map here finds Chatri, so it looks like Prestigious are having a slightly hard time right now, trying to regroup, trying to re-engage yet again, as now Tekken will go head-to-head here with the help of his teammates behind his back. We'll find Exorder. Blaze is going to go down as well, so that's double elimination for Tekken here, as the G-Launcher from Heisenberg gets finally the elimination that was required to stop this man.
And now we do see Mighty in this position. Yeah, that's actually a very nice angle to be using. He will secure at least one more elimination. But the problem is, the G-Launchers come in, but somehow Blaze is more effective. And this is a good scenario right now for Cyclone GG. We have players like Blaze getting the triple elimination. That is so much points being racked up.
Already 140-point lead for Cyclone GG here. Still another 3 minutes on the clock before we find out who's going to be victorious. So many Blade Masters coming out. Heisenberg gets a double elimination, gets the triple here as well. Might even get the fourth. Boxer left with just a slither of health. Goes for that G-Launcher, misses unfortunately, and Exorder will take him down.
Yeah, that's a pretty big gap right now between the two teams. Prestigious, they need to catch up here against Cyclone GG. It's a whole difference by 140 points, and I kind of like how Cyclone are playing this one. They're playing this one safe, well, except for Blaze, of course, but we also have Heisenberg here with the G-Launcher. Does find the explosive. That is now almost 100 points here for Cyclone GG until they secure the victory.
Yeah, very small amount of points required for them to very quickly obtain this victory here on the second map, unless Prestigious come out with something miraculous right now. The G-Launcher is just dealing so much damage. Exorder cleaning up, finds the elimination streak on himself as well, and just looking for more. They're just hungry for this victory, and of course, 3 points until they secure it. Therefore, just a single elimination required, and it would be just a miraculous comeback right now if Prestigious would somehow make it happen, but that's probably impossible, as Exorder puts the final nail in the coffin there. So super fast victory coming out from Cyclone GG, and I'm very surprised that it was done in such a fashion. Like, Prestigious were basically unable to do anything. Obviously they got some amount of points, but it was completely Cyclone GG's game.
And I think I understand why. You know, Cyclone GG, they come into this matchup, they probably don't really care too much about winning, and that's the thing. We saw them play very aggressive style here at Guns of Boom. They were constantly pushing forward. There was actually one neat thing I saw at the very start of the match where we actually saw a bit of a nade stack coming in early on, where on the right side of the map, we saw the players from Cyclone GG deploying the 2 HE grenades to actually find early eliminations. But, you know, obviously push didn't happen there, but that's actually a very neat idea. I don't think I've seen it used too often here.
Well, even if they don't get eliminations, they funnel the opponents towards the different direction, where the rest of the team from Cyclone GG was already expecting one player being above, one being on the left-hand side of the map, and they were just waiting for those players to peak. And even if those grenades didn't really get any eliminations, they at least dealt a good amount of damage to those opponents, and they were able to get those early eliminations and obviously get out that lead and essentially within the first minute or so. So let's have a look at the MVPs yet again and see if Heisenberg is rocking the town for Cyclone GG. And indeed he is. 187 points, again 11 eliminations, 9 assists, only 5 deaths here as well, which is very notable in a team deathmatch scenario.
Yeah, because obviously you don't lose points from dying, that's for certain, but obviously you have your opponents that are going to be getting those points after your demise. So yes, it's actually important for you to not only to find the eliminations, but it's also important to stay alive for as long as possible.
Yeah, and on this side of prestigious, Boxer was the guy who really stood out in this match, and that was 98 points, 6 eliminations, and 5 assists. Obviously, not as impressive as Heisenberg put up here, but obviously that was also hard to obtain if you are continuously just being pushed into your own base, really not having that many opportunities of getting out safely. And if you do manage to get out, there's obviously a bunch of Cyclone GG players waiting for you just around the corner there. So for prestigious, yet again, I must say they really need to rethink their strategy as to how they want to play Old Factory.
Yeah, and there weren't really, say, a lot of moments where the team would actually be able to succeed their prestigious. It was Cyclone GG primarily playing a very aggressive style here.
Okay, well, let's have a look at the brackets just in case if anyone is tuning in now, just so you know who is playing and where we stand right now. So after the first pair here, Cyclone GG have made it into the final, so they're going to be waiting for their opponents. And still, we do have another match on our hands, and that is going to be Unkilled going up against Indian Wolves.
Yeah, that should be quite the interesting matchup. It is going to be our third time since we see these two teams battling out here at the very same spot here, the semifinals. And I think one of the times we did actually see the Unkilled roster come through, there was Indian Wolves. But this time around, this is going to be very interesting on which team will be able to come out on top.
I do think they sit on pretty even levels. I do think it slightly more depends on what sort of plays they make during the match, not so necessarily as per individuals that there would be a huge difference between these two teams. So I do think it's more of an approach question for who comes out on top. Obviously, looking at the standings, Indian Wolves do tend to come out on top more here, but Unkilled have historically shown a very good performance against this team. The question is, can they do it again today, and can they overthrow them?
Yeah, we're going to be waiting to see that, if that will be the case. I guess they could also actually even mention that the Unkilled roster, there was a moment where they even succeeded by passing through the semis and playing in the grand finals. And when they were playing against, I do believe, yes, it was at the time Damage Gaming, now Cyclone GG, the roster from Unkilled actually showed a lot of promise, I would even call it like that. It was a 3-1 victory for Cyclone GG, sure, but the biggest takeaway is that the Unkilled roster, they had very close affairs, like it was map after map after map, and it was very close. Even the last one we saw, their fourth one, which I do believe was, not sure if that was Atrium, but
Skyscrapers.
Skyscrapers, yeah, exactly. Even in the Skyscrapers match, I even remember to this day, was neck and neck. There was really not a single team coming out on top there. It was to the very last seconds, to the very last eliminations, until we saw a victory there from, at the time, Damage Gaming, now Cyclone GG, but Unkilled, they clearly have what it takes in order to play with a team like Cyclone GG. So again, this is going to be just a simple best of 3, not a best of 5. So there's always a possibility of an upset.
Yeah, I think that Unkilled have all the opportunities to overthrow Indian Wolves here. For Indian Wolves, they clearly want to go again head-to-head up against Cyclone GG in the finals. Historically, they have managed to obtain a victory in one of them over Cyclone GG. So question is, could they potentially do it today if, of course, they do manage to deal with Unkilled rosters first? And for Unkilled as well, I mean, they've been very active towards the beginnings of the matches, and pretty much as far as I can tell, they've never really let themselves down in terms that they don't really give up during their matches. They're always coming back towards their opponent, guns out, and of course looking to recapture those points and looking to get those eliminations. So question is, can Unkilled show us that yet again on Paradise Island, which we're going to see first in a short moment?
And I do believe the last time these two teams faced off, that was in week number 6. I think it might have been an Indian Wolves victory 2-0, but if I recall correctly, the first map might have been a bit closer between the two teams. I think it also was a very small difference between them, maybe 100 points, I even say like that. So yes, there's always a possibility of the very first map being very close here between the teams. That's what pretty much has been the case here for King of the Hill, especially for Paradise Island. It's a very small map. You have the ability to respawn relatively quickly, and with the respawns coming in so fast, the tides can change instantaneously. They change every couple seconds or so.
Do you think if there would be no kill of the King of the Hill scenarios, if there would be, say, only team deathmatch scenarios, same maps, but only team deathmatch scenarios, would we see a different situation in the standings?
Oh, that is a very
That's
big.
like
That's a big one.
That's a theoretical question, but I just got curious. Like, I started thinking, what would be the difference in standings if there would be no King of the Hill scenarios?
Like it would definitely make a lot of sense to be building like rosters who do have this firepower, like a team like Cyclone GG. I think a team like that would probably still remain at the very top, whether it be Team Deathmatch, King of the Hill. In fact, they'd even say that probably their most favorite game mode is in fact Team Deathmatch. But now let's take a look back here at Paradise Island as we are here at King of the Hill. It will be Prestigious playing against Indian Wolves. So now let's see, which sides are they going to be starting things off here? I would say that maybe while it's playing here on the left-hand side, there's a possibility to get the early cap in, and there's going to be Ravi to get the first elimination there, but the cap there, it is going in favor here of Indian Wolves.
Yeah, Hope is back, is able to stay alive on that point, and speaking of staying alive, not unless Skilled has something to say about it, as now he's going to be flanked from that left-hand side. Rice even gets the double elimination here as well. Very good job coming out from him. Moriarty looking to retaliate here as Ghost making his way towards that capture point. Skilled is going to put him down on the ground and even gets a double elimination as well. There are two members of his team following up very closely here as Rice, currently the only man on the capture point. That G-Launcher barely misses him, but Lionheart makes sure to finish the job instead of the G-Launcher here, as in the meantime, Ghost is going to be pushing forward right now, and it's just a mess on the capture point. Blade Master's coming out left and right. Ghost gets a double elimination of his own, as Rice also finds another one that's slightly a swipe on the unkilled roster here.
This is looking very good for the Indian Wolves side. They're finding all the necessary eliminations. The unkilled guys having a very difficult time at stopping them. Now we are seeing the respawns coming in. That's a perfect aim there from Gunrag. And now this is a good opportunity for unkilled. They finally have the cap here. And now they've put the players in some very feasible positions. We have one of the guys behind the bagage area, one of the players inside the hut. Those are some fine positions, but hold on just a sec. We have Rice there with the big flank. He won't find the elimination though. It is going to be Gunrek finding all the necessary eliminations. He's getting that YouTube content, baby.
Yeah, triple elimination and an elimination streak on top of that. He even gets the perfect aim there, and Hope is back coming with the combo breaker. Slightly ironic that his name is just as his actions is now unkilled, even though they're only 10 roughly points behind Indian Wolves right now. For Indian Wolves, it's desperate times as they really need to regain control of this match right now. Ravi Reddy looking to do just that as he puts down an explosive on that flank just behind enemy lines, trying to nail those shots, but unfortunately Lionheart does come out on top, and Rice in trouble here as Lionheart gets a double elimination for himself, and now the unkilled roster is in the lead with 45 points.
Yeah, they have themselves the lead. It's not a massive one to give them that, but it is a lead nonetheless. This is an opportunity, though. Indian Wolves are making the push happen here. At the very least, it is Rice. I'm not sure if it's the fine point of action to just try to jump on the side by here lonesome without any of your teammates backing him up. But now I do see Gunrack coming in with a bit of a flank, I would presume. I think that might have been a flashbang throw now. I'm not sure if it did the most amount of effectiveness there, but now we are seeing the elimination still coming in here on the side. It's being taken over by Indian Wolves. They're doing a fine job at it at securing the point, but can they actually hold it off?
I like how the unkilled roster just continuously sticking together as a team. Unfortunately, Hope was able to find Lionheart, who was singled out in that engagement there. Hope is back, gets a double elimination here as well. So those are very quickly, very valuable points obtained again for the Indian Wolves side, and they're looking to overtake the lead. Skill comes out on top with that Blade Master there. He might just go down on that capture point as Ghost comes in with the flank, gets a double elimination, and he's on elimination streak as well as Gunrag finds finally Ghost and able to put up a combo breaker on the board, but unfortunately Rice was hiding just behind those suitcases there. Didn't manage to take him down.
This is still looking pretty good for the Indian Wolves roster. They are able to continue on holding the control point, but now unkilled. They have respawned. They're making the plays happen here. Gunrack won't find a single elimination, and now that's the problem. They must still try to attempt one more fine push to secure it, and Moriarty's actually getting the control point. They're going to be able to get these players in like a sandwich. This is looking superb right now
is
for
this the
Unkilt.
turnaround? Coming in with the double elimination, Weinhardt able to secure that capture point with the help of his teammates. You can see they're going to be positioning themselves around these corners, and for Indian Wolves, they just need a few more points before they can lock this down. One more point as Moriarty trying to go for that desperate attempt, and Unkilled come out on top. This Gunrag secures the final elimination, just a single point above Indian Wolves, and I'm pretty sure that Indian Wolves feel cheated on that one.
A single
I haven't
point.
seen a single point in a while.
A single point is the thing that
feels
made
bad,
the
man.
difference.
Feels bad, man, in the
feels
chat.
bad.
Indeed, as, oh my god, a single point and Unkilled miraculously. And as we already spoke, very natively for Paradise Island to have, obviously, a super close match. For sure, Unkilled are on the same level as Indian Wolves, if not better. As you can see, they did manage to secure that clutch victory here. And I mean, that's as clutch as it gets.
It is. I mean, that's only the 1 point. It could have gone any other way. Imagine if you would have gone for, say, not an elimination, a previous maybe couple minutes, but for a Blade Master, boom, you suddenly secure yourself the victory on the back of that one elimination. That's crazy how close it was between the two teams.
Well, I'm hopeful that the same scenario is going to happen on Old Factory as well, because if so, we're going to see a very interesting match. But before that, let's have a look at the MVPs and see if Gunrag actually is going to be the man of the hour for his team, or is it going to be someone else? It is going to be Gunrag indeed, 236.7 eliminations and 11 assists. I would like to have like another number there showing that number of crucial engagements or something like that.
And the thing is, I even remember at the very start of this matchup, maybe when the first 30 seconds have passed, Gunrag was having a very difficult time. I think in the first couple of minutes, he might have only sat with 7 or so points. Like, he did not have the best of starts, and then he was able to find those massive eliminations. And of course, here for Indian Wolves, we do have Ghost, 240 free score, 13 eliminations. Like, you can see that even here, when they do put up the best players in terms of scoreline, it is super close.
It is super close, but I must say 13 eliminations is very impressive coming out from Ghost. He was continuously trying to recapture that point, always on the flank, and I like the fact that how he was playing around those opponents. As soon as he saw that there are two opponents sticking together, he tried to get behind enemy lines, tried to put that shotgun into use from behind and see if he can at least deal loads of damage toward these players.
And that's the thing, like, a shotgun is a great weapon to be using for the flanking routes. With a shotgun, you can get up close and personal, do massive damage, find the necessary eliminations to put your team in a more favorable position. But in all fairness, like, I'm quite surprised to see that the matchup was neck and neck, because at one point, it looked like Indian Wolves had a very tight hold there. But then we saw one of the greater flanks coming in there. I do believe, I can't really remember which player it was, but he was able to secure the control point there for the Unkilled roster. And from that point onward, like, for Indians Wolves, that map was just falling apart. They weren't able to stop it.
I think it was Moriarty who was.
Yeah, probably Moriarty. Yeah, that was definitely Moriarty in that position. Now I remember. And yes, folks, of course, this is a best of 3. It is our second map here, Old Factory Team Deathmatch. How else? It is going to be starting things off here. I wonder, is it going to be an aggressive start here from one of the teams? If it is going to be an aggressive start, oh no. It's
going to be a restart.
Yeah, it's going to be a restart. I even saw one of the players there, making the moves there with the emotes. How else? And lovely games against
I just hope that this will not throw off the Unkilled roster as very quickly jumping into the next match. They're obviously super hyped to follow up on that first victory here. And I would be very surprised to see if Unkilled actually take this 2-0, because I do think Indian Wolves might have a slight upper hand in the team deathmatch mode, at least looking historically as to how their matches have gone on this map. But in general, actually, do we have the statistics for how Indian Wolves have done on Old Factory? If you can
Um,
find it, it says pretty small font, but we'll have a
hmm.
look at a moment there just to see what sort of win rates we are having from that roster. In general, though, for Unkilled, I do think that they're going to be coming out with an all-out aggression here, following more like the Cyclone GG game style on this map, where there's
Hmm.
pretty much nothing you can lose at this point. Okay, well, you can lose the map, but you'll still have another chance on Europe Square, and if you do manage to get that super aggressive lead, then for them it's just simple things. Just don't cross the middle part of the map and you should be safe. Make sure that your opponent is coming towards you and just lay fire upon them.
And that's the thing, like, it being a team deathmatch game mode, it being a pretty small map here like it is here in Old Factory, there's a great possibility to be getting some of those flanks in from the left side of the map, from the right side of the map. You can be very precise in your movement, and that is the thing. Map control is of great essence here in a map like this. This being Old Factory, you have a great opportunity to actually secure some great camping spots. If you get up close and personal to the spawn of your opponents, you can hide behind, the lorries and whatnot, some of the barrels that are stationed close by those spawns, and if you find those eliminations, that could be a very good way to find a way to boost up your points.
Yeah, and an interesting point on Old Factory, both of these teams have a 70% win rate. So
Oh,
they
that's
played
very
an equal
peculiar.
amount of times
Hmm.
Old Factory and both have 70% win rate. Therefore, they both feel comfortable on this map. Question is, of course, who will be able to come out on top. And as you already mentioned in that first pair of matches that we had earlier on, I do think that it's very valuable to try to use those elevated surfaces.
Hmm.
Because, I
It
mean,
is.
otherwise there's just, you are not utilizing a part of the map that could be crucial for your victory.
Yeah, but that's the thing we talked about earlier. Like having those elevated surfaces, you can always have players there with a rifle station up there, but you have someone with sniper rifles, you can actually
Heck with the
range.
G launcher, just
Or the
go
G
go
launcher,
all
why
out.
not?
Just make sure that you wait for that cluster of opponents to come out and land that baby in the middle.
But yeah, like with the sniper rifles, you're able to inflict a lot of damage. We even saw some teams actually go for like a two-man setup on, say, the mid portion of the map. And then while he's having two players there with the sniper rifle, you can find some of those very easy eliminations. If you say if one player comes out, you say your opponent comes out from an angle, you have already two of your sniper rifle players looking at that one angle. That is a great opportunity to find some easy eliminations.
Ooh, and also an interesting thing. Obviously, a lot of this would come down to towards the communication. But like, say if you have the snipers posted right, as
Hmm.
long as they are playing in pairs, like say one sniper plays in pair with one of the riflers and the other one does the same, they could, in theory, the snipers could just get tags in, and the other guys with the rifles in hand could actually finish off the opponent.
That's a possibility, though. One thing we do have to mention is that the sniper rifle, it does have longer range, so it is going to be able to find some of those eliminations and, in fact, begin doing the damage.
Yeah.
The rifles, on the other hand, they have lesser range, so it's going to require a player to get in there a bit close in order to find that elimination. And now I think this is going to be it. We can continue on with our best of three semifinal. Old Factory Team Deathmatch, how else it could be. And now we are going to be able to see whether the two teams will have an aggressive start or a bit of a slower start. I think it's the latter. As
Indeed.
Unkilled, they are disconnecting from the game.
Okay, so
Oh boy.
previously Eden Wolves had an issue, now Unkilled have an issue, so obviously, as we hear say, usually three things are good things, so therefore the third one is going to be the charm. Um, we're going to see and find out if we can, excuse me, see if we can find out what the exact issues are right now. I think it's something related to connectivity.
Yeah, something related with the player's ping. Obviously, it is quite important. A game like Guns of Boom to have the best possible internet connection and the best possible servers. And of course, the fix is going to happen here one way or the other, folks. So don't worry about that. Of course, until we are waiting for the fix to take place, I guess it's a good opportunity as any to maybe even talk about how a team like Unkilled have actually been proving to be a somewhat decent opponent here in the
I
Southeast
think
Asia region.
Yeah, I think they've definitely grown over time. Looking back at their first matches and now comparing as to how they've been playing out, even that final match that we just
Hmm.
saw right now, it definitely shows that the players have grown, have learned from their mistakes. They obviously have a very controlled environment in terms of how they want to approach this match. not always can you control the match itself. Understandably so, unexpected things happen, especially for. I would be more interested to hear actually from the Indian Wolves' perspective as to what sort of talks they're having after this 1-point loss over Unkilled. So I do think they're gonna probably just brush it off as like an unlucky thing that happened there. And also, unfortunately, I don't think we have the technical capabilities for that, but I would like to see if anyone from the side of Indian Wolves was in the process of getting that elimination and how close it actually got.
It would be actually very nice to maybe have a bit of a replay of that sort of scenario. It would be very awesome to actually witness how that one turned out. But yeah, I guess it's also one of the things we can talk about is how close indeed it was between the two teams. Like, it really comes down to the one elimination. Maybe someone sitting on the control point, and that's it. That could have easily gone for Indian Wolves as well.
I'm pretty sure the hands were shaking at that point, especially for, well, not for Gunrag, as clearly he nailed that final shot.
Oh, he
so
did.
His hands were not shaking in that moment. Question is, of course, as well, I'm curious to know what sort of, like, attachments, not attachments, but what sort of phone cases or such things are they using to see, perhaps, if they can get the best grip and so on. Would like to hear, perhaps, a few words from the team, but in general, I do think that the Unkilled roster have a very good potential of coming out on top here, especially looking back at that first victory. A lot of victories obtained from not necessarily a lesser team, but say a team that is behind in the standings, comes off the fact of just pure emotions. Like, if you get a super good victory in the first match, quite often it can transition into the next one. So sitting on a good roll and sitting with a good feeling that you just snuck away with the victory over your opponent that is in front of you in the standings is definitely a factor to count in here.
And obviously, we can talk about how Guns of Boom is kind of a momentum-based game. Like, if you have a good, solid start there from the early game, there's a high probability that if you're going to be able to keep it up, you will probably secure yourselves the victory. As Guns of Boom, it is kind of a back-and-forth game. I guess you could call it somewhat basketball-esque, as just like the game with the big orange ball, you also have to go in back and forth, you know, and then one of the teams is just going to have a dominant performance and then actually come out on top.
Well, speaking of going backwards and forwards, let's jump into Old Factory yet again here. Hopefully everyone is connected and hopefully everyone stays on the server here, as we are super eager to find out who is going to come out on top here. Is it going to be Unkilled securing a 2-0 victory, or is this going to go to match number 3? First explosives being put on the ground here, as you can see towards that right hand side. Skilled now trying to go for that flank, but in the meantime Hope is back, is going to be the man who makes the first strike, and Skilled takes care of his opponent and even takes care of himself as well with that explosion. Currently Indian Wolves in the lead with 46 points.
Yeah, we are able to see the Indian Wolves have a very solid start so far here in Old Factory. We are able to see, though, the Unkilled players like Lionheart Skilled able to find some of these eliminations. Hope is back, though. He has no idea about the flank that's taking place there right behind him. There we go. There's Skilled with the Blade Master. And there we go. That's Unkilled having a slight point advantage.
Very quickly, they change the tides here and obviously making sure that Indian Wolves are not sitting comfortable on this map. Moriarty tried to escape those bullets, but unfortunately was not able to do so. Is now Skilled on elimination streak right now. Ravi did manage to take him out, but it doesn't matter. He actually got those points that are required from him. Now hiding behind the boxes, Ravi ready with the help of his teammates. The G-Launcher comes out from Lionheart and he finds Ghost of all the people. Rice, though, very quickly able to trade here. Skilled yet again finds another Blade Master for himself and even gets the follow-up, a double elimination for himself as he runs away, looking to heal up and regenerate that health.
And this is good right now for the Unkilled roster. Sure, some of the players have been softened up. And that's the explosive from Ravi. You like to see it happen, as now Indian Wolves, they have the advantage here by 10 points. It is pretty slim, but they're going to continue on finding the Blade Masters and whatnot. That's looking solid here for the red team.
It might be what just was required from Indian Wolves in order for them to get the lead back, as Rice finds another elimination, but Grunau comes in with a double with that shotgun there. Is now slightly stuck in the corner. Moriarty will go down to Ghost. Hope is back now, looking towards Lionheart. Cannot really get a perfect line of sight here. He's actually going to be flanked on the left-hand side, but Rice saves his life as Skilled was already looking towards him, and now Indian Wolves making for a push forward here. Rice trying to deal as much damage as physically possible, but Gunrag actually gets a double on the back of that.
And this is very close right now between the two teams. Kinda seems to me that it could really go down to the wire like it did in the very first map. That's a pretty good grenade being thrown out, but that's going to be only the flashbang. No damage being dealt whatsoever. Lionheart is there, but he won't find a single elimination. Look at how low some of these players are here for Indian Wolves. We're seeing trades happening back and forth, but thus far, it is Indian Wolves with the advantage.
Only 50 points in front over Unkilled. 2 minutes on the clock here. Unkilled are grouping up for another push here. Moriarty and Skilled on the right-hand side of the map. Skilled already has taken some shots, but still staying alive as he now finally finds Hope is back. In the meantime, Rice has found Moriarty and Ghost finds Skilled as well here. So a bit of a backwards and forwards action as a 2 versus 2 exchange is going through. Hope is back, does find Lionheart, who was on low health, and Hope needs to get away from here quickly as Skilled is on the backtracks there.
And now this final push is going to be utmost important here for Unkilled. If they still want to come out on top, they're going to need to find these eliminations as soon as possible, as that timer is ticking ever so quicker. And right now, Indian Wolves, they secure the final 50 points, and they're going to be able to come out on top here on Old Factory. But that's the thing, like, look at how slow both of these teams are playing. It's not even the Unkilled players playing any aggressive style right now.
Yeah, nobody really wants to take any unnecessary risks, but finally the push comes through for Indian Wolves as they do manage to secure 3 eliminations. They're pretty much sitting only at 1 before they run away with a victory here. Can Unkilled do the same thing that they did on the first map here, or is this going to be Indian Wolves taking it? And Moriarty does find one, but Rice puts an end to it. Therefore, Indian Wolves do secure that second map. Old Factory goes their way. A very, very close match still coming out here. The lead was changing continuously, and obviously the eliminations were going backwards and forwards. Super, super strong engagements from either side. I was super pleased also to see that during the latter part, where essentially Indian Wolves still needed roughly about 100 points, both teams slowed down. So both teams didn't really want to overextend or want to take unfavorable engagements.
Yeah, and it's very interesting how this map played out, because we even saw Unkilled have a slight advantage in one of the scenarios there. I'm not sure if it was a big one. I think it might have been something like 50 points, which obviously that's not a lot. But one of the things we can definitely talk about is how that one was I think a double elimination for one of the players there from Indian Wolves, with the G launcher, of course, that did put his team in a very favorable position. They had the lead, and from that point onward, they just continue on balling out of control.
Yeah, off the back of that G-Launcher double elimination, they were able to push forward and make sure that they can clean up the team and obviously obtain at least that 50-point lead. And it looks like that 50 points is a good enough lead to have, but definitely not one you want to sit comfortably on it. Even 100 points still seems not to be enough. But overall, Indian Wolves did manage to come out on top here. I must say it probably just went down to a few of individual engagements. And I do think that Ghost was the man that was sitting on that elevated surface in the middle, looking to making sure that he can get those tags in.
Yeah, could have been. Let's take a look at the MVPs, shall we? Old Factory was played out, and yes, Skilled for Unkilled. That's quite the combination right there. And look at this. Again, a 1-point difference. Skill has 146 score. Ravi Reddy's got 147 points. These are pretty close score lines when you think about it.
Indeed, but Ravi has a lot of assists on the back of his, all right, sitting already at 8. So definitely has been a part of a lot of these fights happening. So this does mean that we are going to see Europe Square control points again. So for this best of 3, now Unkilled having 1 map and Indian Wolves able to secure that second one, it's all going to come down as to who is going to be able to control those points most effectively. And the question is also how quick the rotations are going to be for these teams.
Yeah, that's going to be very important in a map like Europe Square, as after all, this is the map where it does require a lot of flanking routes between the two teams. But if you're going to be playing it like in a slower style of plays, that's not the way to do Europe Square. You have to be very fast in your approach, and you're also going to have to commit to the control points in order to hold them out, because, again, like a map like this will allow a lot of maneuverability for the opponents. If you're not going to be concentrated on, say, the C point, there's a high probability someone from your opponents is just going to snatch it from your eyes.
Well, what we see usually is in maps that have 3 control points, usually the teams tend to go for all of them in the beginning, but towards the latter stages of the match, you can see that a team team does manage to secure at least 2 points on their side, they pretty much forget about the third one, because it's not really worth risking of losing your members trying to recapture that point, because then in return, one of your points that are already in control by your team are probably going to be challenged, and therefore it doesn't really pay off. And having like the bigger amount of points under your control does mean that you get those points ticking away faster. So in general, it's going to be a pretty tight match in my opinion here, because definitely Unkilled have showed up looking for a victory here for today, and for Indian Wolves, they need to make sure that they can secure that second place title.
Yeah, that second place title is going to be important. Maybe, who knows? I mean, coming into this matchup here against Cyclone GG, if that's going to happen here, Cyclone GG versus Indian Wolves in the finals. Like, Indian Wolves, they've already, proven themselves as to be very much a top opponent here throughout, our 7 weeks of play. And to be honest, I must admit, the battle between the second and third place is probably a bit more interesting than the first and, say, second, because the second and third place has been pretty much constantly contested by Unkilled and Indian Wolves, and they've been having like these close series ever so often. Whenever they end up meeting, sure, you might see an Indian Wolves victory 2-0, but trust me when I tell you that it was a bit closer than the initial scoreline may suggest.
What do you think if Prestigious are watching these matches now, while they still have time and waiting for their opponent for the third and fourth place best of 5 series, looking at how Unkilled and also the Indian Wolves roster are performing today, do you think they're slightly intimidated by the fact that they're actually seeing what sort of performance they're going up against today?
I honestly don't really think so, because the problem is it would be a great learning tool to say to see how they're playing like some of the maps here, but the problem is those maps are not going to appear there in the third and fourth place deciders, so you're not going to be learning a lot of information about your opponent, though they can probably see that Indian Wolves and Unkilled, they are pretty fine opponents here in the Southeast Asia region, so they definitely know that it's going to require a bit of a fight in order to secure themselves the victory. But who knows, maybe they are looking at their lovely broadcast here and maybe learning about some of the tips and tricks about these teams, and that they're going to be able to use them in the coming season.
And also, what do you think, what are the thoughts going through the heads of both Unkilled and Indian Wolves now going into this third match? Like, obviously, Indian Wolves now securing the second map and probably considering that first loss as just a fluke, just simply points not going their way in that first match. Do you think they feel confident enough taking on Unkilled on Europe Square, or do they actually really respect their opponent and try to approach every match as the first one?
I honestly wonder. That's a very good question there, Vinifigos, because we haven't really seen a lot of these teams playing the third map. It's been primarily 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. A third map is very rarely seen in a best of 3, because there's still a pretty big difference when it comes down to the top 4 teams. The number 1 seed and the number 4th one. But here, in Europe Square, being played out against the number 2 team and the number 3 team. Oh boy, that could actually be a somewhat interesting affair there between Unkilled and Indian Wolves. It could actually even go to the favor of Unkilled. That's definitely a possibility, because we have seen that in the control points area, like, they can do a decent amount of damage here.
Yeah, well, I mean, looking from another perspective, though, in the overall standings, nothing really much can change. Like, there's a 100-point difference between Unkilled and Indian Wolves roster. So therefore, whoever makes it into the finals today, they'll be only able to secure 75 points,
right,
unless they somehow come out on top over Cyclone GG then.
And that's not going to be too much difference in the points regardment, obviously. But this is probably a good way of maybe getting some of those bragging rights, like, aha, look at us, we're the number 2 team here in the Southeast Asia region. But other than that, probably, yeah, like, we can still quite confidently say that Indian Wolves and Unkilled, they are by far, oh, and obviously, Cyclone GG, they deserve to be in the top 3. Like, they are looking very solid. Maybe even any given day when Cyclone GG are having a, say, a poorer performance than usual, maybe there is a possibility for even a team like Unkilled to come out on top in a best of 5 scenario. Best of 3, it's a bit more likely, as they do have less maps to play, so there's a bigger chance of an upset, but maybe even a best of 5, that's a possibility.
And also a question, if in this best of 3 now that we're going to see between Unkilled and Indian Wolves, do you think that the pressure of the fact that this is a best of three, this is the final map that decides which of these two teams is going to go up against Cyclone GG. Do you think there is any sort of like pressure factor going to come into the play between these two rosters? As obviously there are well, always on either team, there are players that have more experience and there are players that are lesser experienced. Do you think that pressure is still a factor now in week 7, essentially, in this spring season between these two teams, or do you think the guys are basically used to it?
I definitely say they're used to it. Like they've been playing, for 7 weeks, which is quite a long time here for the Southeast Asia region. And the other thing is that, yeah, it's worth the mention that this is in fact the last cup here of the spring season. So honestly, I don't think either team has got like some sort of massive pressure mounted on them, nor Unkilled, nor the Indian Wolves roster. But maybe the one thing that they're definitely fighting for is maybe bragging rights. Like, oh, look at us. And if you say you're Unkilled, and oh, look at us. We've actually beat Indian Wolves not only once, but maybe even twice throughout the tournament. But if Indian Wolves they come out on top here, then they can have the bragging rights of saying, oh, look at us. We are the #2 team here in the Southeast Asia region. So obviously, I think there's not a lot of pressure in terms of for the teams having to perform at their utmost best, but there might be some sort of pressure when when we have this sort of semantics of who's better and who's not.
I'm not entirely sure why, but I have a lot of theory crafting coming to my mind
Okay,
today.
let's hear it.
Here's another question that I just thought of. What we obviously continuously see pretty much 4 teams coming through the 16 teams that start off the games today. So what do you think is the biggest factor that really differentiates a good team between a bad team in Guns of Boom? Well, bad in quote lines,
Yeah.
because obviously no one's really bad. There's just more successful and lesser.
Yeah, you don't worry, guys. You're all good in my mind. And anyhow,
Okay.
let's take a look at our third map, shall we, Beneficus? Europe Square control points it is. Like I said, I mean, we don't really get to see this map being played out too often, so it's going to be quite exciting to see how it's going to be played out. Indian Wolves here against Unkilled already. It is the Unkilled roster going for the cap here. They're doing a fine job at it, as they should be able to secure themselves the B cap. And I think there's also some action happening on the C point as well.
That was an interesting approach from Indian Wolves. They tried to go for that AC capture. In the meantime, Unkilled decided to clean up the B capture point, and then afterwards split into one side and make sure they can clean it out. And it has resulted in a small success in terms that they have a slight lead over Indian Wolves right now. Ghost on that C capture point, looking to see if he can regain control with the help of Ravi ready. And these narrow pathways might just be a complete death wish for Unkilled here. Somehow, Lionheart stayed alive for so long. Evading those shotgun shots did unfortunately go down. Eventually, Gunrag now here as well is going to be taken care of. And it looks like Indian Wolves are going to be in control of this match right now, having 2 control points in their favor. Hope is back, continuously staying alive here in this engagement. Gets Lionheart, and Lionheart is probably not going to be happy about that one. Unfortunately, being eliminated 2 times in a row in a similar fashion.
That was a pretty long engagement, I must admit. Now we are able to see the Indian Wolves roster trying to go for a bit of a comeback here, but in all fairness, Unkilled, they still got themselves the medal to the pedal. We have Skill trying to fight some of these eliminations, but that's the problem. The totem pole, it is very thin, so you can get very easily eliminated in that scenario. Now we are seeing Ravi and Co trying to find these eliminations. It's kind of working out here for Indian Wolves. They're doing a fine job at it at actually trying to secure the B point, but I think they might have some problems on the other sides of the map.
It's starting to fall apart here for Indian Wolves, as Unkilled now have overtaken the lead. Yet again, Gunrag finding the elimination onto Ghost, but Ghost from the grave with the G launcher is able to trade. They're now ready on that C capture point, low on health, and needs to battle it out with Skilled here. Skilled will be able to come out on top, finds the perfect timing there. Unfortunately, it was unable to take care of Ghost, so C capture point is still going to be in control of Indian Wolves now. In the meantime, the battle is on here towards that B capture point, as the pincer movement coming in from Unkilled here, able to secure that B capture point, and the A capture point is in their favor as well. So for Indian Wolves, they need to make fast moves right now. Skill finds another double elimination for himself. In the meantime, Hope is back. He's able to trade with a Blade Master of his own.
And this is even an opportunity here for the unkilled roster to try to secure the victory here by holding on to these 2 points, but that's difficult because you have guys like Ravi Reddy with a triple elimination, of course. And now we do see Indian Wolves trying to stop this one from happening. They're doing a fine job at securing the B control point. But you know, Rice, he's been overwhelmed here and he still somehow finds that elimination. Now he's going to try to help out his teammates here, but that's the thing, like there's so much action happening here on the B control point that I kind of think Unkilled might have forgotten the other points, and I think for good reason. For them, 20 more points and they secure themselves the victory.
So very quickly, Indian Wolves now are going to be going for that A capture point just to make sure that they can very quickly obtain that lead. But that was a huge connection right there as Gunrag finds the explosive elimination onto Ghost. In the meantime, Hope is able to trade. Even Merciless right now with that double elimination off the back of that, trying to reload here and heal back up in time as he's currently sitting on that A capture point. Now Moriarty sitting on B capture point, looking to flank towards A, but he's going to run into 2 opponents here, finds the first elimination, goes for that flank around. I don't think he actually suspects that there's another player just behind, and now Unkilled able to secure the victory here. Very, very close one again, only a roughly 60 point lead for them in the end. I think the tides changed about 4 or 5 times in this match.
Oh, there were a lot of moments where we saw the Unkilled roster having themselves a solid start. Then we saw Indian Wolves with a solid comeback. And you know, it was kind of back and forth from that mid portion of the map. And you know, at the end of it all, it is Unkilled to claim the victory. And not only did they secure the win here on the 3rd map, but they win the best of 3 and move on forward to the grand finals.
Right, so Unkilled are going to be going up against Cyclone GG in a best of 5 series. And this does mean also that Prestigious are going to be battling it out with Indian Wolves in a best of 5 of their own for the 3rd and 4th position spot. But slightly back towards this match and map, what we just saw, super impressive step coming out from Ravi Reddy, again finding triple eliminations in crucial moments where it's required for their team to come back into the match, especially towards the later stages of the matches. And speaking of actually super well made plays and great players, let's have a look at the MVPs and see is actually it's going to be Hope on the side of Indian Wolves here, coming out on top with 210 points, 11 eliminations, and 5 assists. And for the Unkilled roster, your favorite man of the hour, Skilled, with 229 points, 13 eliminations, and 5 assists here. Now you can see actually that the death count is quite high, and that's due to the fact that they're just continuously trying to recapture these points, meaning that you pretty much at some point in time will need to throw yourself onto the capture point and just risk everything. And obviously it's not going to play out favorably in all times.
Yeah, it's going to be very problematic, and at times you just have to put in the bodies on the control points. You obviously want to have, you know, one of your players, you know, oh, come on, don't look at me that way. You're going to want to have one of your players, you know, going in there as a bit of a more supportive style, I guess you could call it. He goes in there, tries to acquire the control point victory as soon as possible. And right now, guys, let's take a look at the brackets. I mean, it's been a pretty long day thus far. The semifinals. Let's see, though, the very first semifinal of the day, of course, was Cyclone GG against Prestigious. That was a 2-0 victory for Cyclone.
Okay, and the second pair, of course, we just saw was Unkilled going up against Indian Wolves that actually took part in all 3 maps where Unkilled was able to find the victory 2-1 over Indian Wolves, where I must point out again that first map was secured by Unkilled with just a single point difference. So therefore Unkilled is going to move forward, looking forward to see if they can do the same to Cyclone GG in that best of 5. But before that, we will see a best of 5 coming out between Prestigious and Indian Wolves. So in this best of 5, Prestigious versus Indian Wolves, first map is going to be farming complex control points. Okay, so I do think that Indian Wolves coming in hot pretty much from a heavy control point based map, jumping into farming complex, it's going to be probably they're going to feel like fish in the water.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to witness right now the 3rd and 4th place decider, because obviously Indian Wolves, they are still looking like the more competent team in this matchup, I might say so myself. Prestigious, surely throughout the entirety of the season, they really had a difficult time actually breaking through the top 4. And yes, here they shall face the number 2 seed here throughout the Southeast Asia region. So I'm not really sure if a team like Prestigious will be able to even acquire a single map, to be honest. Indian Wolves are looking
Whoa.
solid here. I'm making bold predictions here for the Ficus.
Bold statements indeed coming out, but I must say that looking at the poor performance of Indian Wolves, that's not really an unlikely scenario today. So I do think that Indian Wolves might actually do that. So unless, of course, Prestigious have some sort of a surprise readied up for the lineup of Indian Wolves on the farming complex, and perhaps if they can start things off strongly, they can do the same thing what Unkilled did, and we'll be able to follow up on that one.
Yeah, we'll see if that's going to be a possibility. Maybe, okay. Maybe one map is going to be working out for Prestigious, but I don't think they're going to be able to secure themselves the victory of the best of 5. That is, I think, that's going to be too much there from the roster, though. Indian Wolves, again.
Well,
Oh, right. You've got some stats?
I have some
give
stats.
Give me the stats.
Just
give me the stats.
had a gawk, as they say in the UK, at the farming complex statistics. Okay, so actually, Prestigious have a 62.5% win rate on farming complex versus Indian Wolves, who have only 37.5.
Oh, that's not bad.
Okay, so for Prestigious, it's definitely, in terms of statistics, nothing is lost on farming complex. They, in terms of the stats, have the upper hand. So I'm actually curious to see. I was previously unaware of the statistics, so I'm now going to be paying definitely extra attention to see what the roster of Prestigious are doing on this map that has gained them this lead, because obviously they're probably not going to change their game plan from other matches or other opponents in terms of having such good statistics and such win rates on this map.
But then again, there's always the possibility that maybe a team like Prestigious have actually played Farming Complex, in the earlier stages of the tournament, where you do have these lesser teams, in the top 16 stage, top 8. That's a good way to actually bloat out your win rate. And when you come to these, like, third, fourth place deciders, and even, like, first and second place even, it's going to be a bit harder to face a team like Indian Wolves, so I'm not really sure if the Prestigious roster will be able to back up their numbers in that case.
I think it's super important for Prestigious to secure that first map, which is control points, because the second, Military Warehouse Team Deathmatch, I definitely see that one going the way of Indian Wolves, because they seem to be on fire today in terms of getting those eliminations. They continuously have MVPs sitting at comfortably at 11, 13 elims per match, and if you're going to have an opponent like that, you need to make sure that you can at least obtain the control maps.
Yeah, the control point maps are going to be quite important here, but it's also quite important to get team deathmatch, because that's how it is. Our best of 5 consists of 2 control point maps. Pardon me, King of the Hill. Oh, oof. 1 King of the Hill map, 2 control points, and 2 team deathmatch game modes. It's going to be very important for a team not only to find success in the control point game modes. Sure, that's nice and all, but it's also nice to have players that can actually have some great performances on team deathmatch as well. That is utmost important for teams to succeed at victory.
As well, and of course, at the end of the day, a lot of it comes down to eliminations. So question is, who can be the most on-point player on their team? Which team actually has the better riflers, the better snipers, the better guys who can make sure that those G launchers connect and those explosives connect, and they are able to, as you have pointed out so many countlessly times, but I will point out again, to get those follow-up eliminations as well. So to get those doubles, to get those triples, and obviously rack up that point lead that way. Because going backwards and forward, there's really no guarantees. But Farming Complex now control points between Prestigious and Indian Wolves. So let's see how this one plays out between the two. As you can see, all 3 control points on our screens right now, and need to make sure which of the teams are going to be capturing which points right now. As you can see, actually, there's going to be a group of 3 people from the side of Prestigious heading towards the A capture point, and we are going to be heading back into the studio as a bit of a connectivity issue, probably.
Yeah, probably so. Probably so. So let's hope that we're going to be able to get the fix here as soon as possible. But yeah, thus far there seems to be some technical issues plaguing us. Maybe the players want to have some of them. Maybe again a server switch. That's always a possibility. But anyhow, here in the
Just
third,
lag.
Yeah, lag is all. Come on, yeah. There's always the usual complaint of lag, but we do hope that the fix is going to come in here as soon as possible. We know our admin team are working on the issue as we speak, and as we are continuing on speaking here, I guess we might as well talk about real quickly about our upcoming, summer season. It's going to be taking place here. It is going to start from May 11th, so that's going to be another opportunity for some of these teams to maybe even have an earlier start here in the weekly cups, and maybe then try to dethrone a team like Cyclone GG. Do you think that's a possibility, Beneficus?
Well, if you start off pretty good early on, I do think that's a very good possibility. The question is if you can continuously have like the same level performance throughout the continuation of the weeks as we pass forward to the next one. So it's not so much about like one individual success in 1 week. It's more about obviously the bigger picture. And in the bigger picture, the only way how you can dethrone someone is if you start off good really early. Then you have that safety blanket of the upcoming weeks, just in case if you make some errors in judgment or so on, so you can still have the opportunity of coming back into it. And even in the final weeks, then whichever position you take, it can still change something, if that makes sense.
It does, and the great thing about our little broadcast here is that you can obviously have teams looking back and say how they lost against a Cyclone GG, an Indian Wolves, or an Unkilled. You can look back at some of these matches and see, oh, so this is how Indian Wolves actually approached Paradise Island King of the Hill. We could actually have an idea taken away from their strategy and use it to our own playbook. That's the great thing about our streams here, is that you can actually use it as a great learning material to get the upper hand against some of these teams here, say if you're going to be starting playing there in the next season.
And even in your own games, like if you are playing Guns of Boom, and hopefully you are, if you are watching this, then you can definitely learn a thing or two from these players, and obviously see how you can approach different, what sort of different styles you can have on different maps. So let's have another go at Farming Complex here, as the match is shortly beginning here between Prestigious and Indian Wolves. I was still in that previous matchup.
Yeah, let's take a look how this one's going to turn out. We do have the battle countdown, and the matchup is taking place. Now, we are seeing the Indian Wolves roster making a very quick push there towards the C point, and we also have Ravi ready close by here in the A CP, but the problem is, it's going to get overwhelmed. The A control point is going in favor here for Prestigious, and that's the thing right now. We now have 2 control points here for Indian Wolves, not only the one here for Prestigious, and as the flanks are taking place, we have seeing some great movement there from Tekken. He's got a great opportunity to get the flank here, but he's not landing the necessary shots, and still, Indian Wolves able to come out on top. I'm not sure how that's supposed to work, and that's now an elimination streak for it. Once there for Ghost. The man's on fire, quite literally and figuratively, and this is looking superb right now for Indian Wolves. They've got the lead, and Prestigious must fight back.
Talk about early aggression here. Now, finally, Prestigious trying to go for that B capture point. That explosive could have found a lot more. Doesn't matter, as Ghost finds a double elimination anyway. In the meantime, though, Boxer finds 2 of his own, still on this capture point. Spots Rice, but instantly flanked by Hope is back now. So this is currently Indian Wolves' game, as they're sitting at comfortably 200 points in the lead.
Yeah, 200 points in lead is looking very good here for Indian Wolves. They do have control points C and A, which is always quite nice. And look at how Ghost is playing up close and personal. That's how you like it with the Avalanche. But that's the problem. He's going to he's going to be overwhelmed. And now that's the A control point going here in favor of for the Prestigious rosters. Now Indian Wolves, they are alive and kicking, and they're going to continue on with the hold.
Prestigious still in control of that B and C capture point now, as Ravi Reddy tried to go for a push forward. They're slightly questionable though, because obviously there were more than one player from the side of Prestigious here, so therefore Prestigious now looking to come back into this. Indian Wolves though with all-out aggression now, as Hope is back, finds the G launcher. Tekken and Mighty both find elimination of their own as well. Still, Prestigious need to do a bit more than that, as Indian Wolves in control of 2 capture points. A now currently being recaptured. The G launcher from Boxer will find Rice, and Rice able to trade back by taking Tekken's life there.
You love to see it happen here, and Ghost still holding the control point. He's doing a fine job at it. And now that's the thing. I think also the C control point is going to be going in favor here for Indian Wolves. So there's a possibility that Indian Wolves will have all 3 control points at once, and now the score is going to keep on increasing ever so further.
It's looking bleak for Prestigious here. Tekken able to find an opening, but Ghost in the meantime already on the flank towards that A capture point. Even is going to go for the cap, as he can see that there are no opponents heading his way. So very easy points obtained there. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, both Boxer and Tekken on extremely low HP. Ravi Reddy able to find Boxer there, but was taken down in the process. Looking these trades going backward and forward, but it does look like the Indian Wolves will be able to secure this one comfortably, and we can start speaking about as to how this actually happened. So, I mean, obviously, Indian Wolves' victory in this map is off of the back of that super early aggression. 4 at once is definitely also something that you don't see every day. So super props, of course, for the side of Indian Wolves to be able to put up with that. And I think they got like 2 clean sweeps in a row or something along the lines of that, which gave them obviously the 200-point lead necessary to actually upkeep that till the very end.
Yeah, like Indian Wolves, they were doing a very solid job from the get-go. That's one of the things we keep on stressing here at Ganza Boom. If you have yourself the early lead, the early start, as aggressive as Indian Wolves were, like you have such a great opportunity to rack up those points constantly and secure yourself a pretty nice lead moving forward. And the problem is the prestigious roster, like, from the get-go, they had such a difficult time at coming back into this matchup.
Yeah, they had plenty of good opportunities, but just simply the eliminations were not going their way. So question is, of course, now how will they be able to perform on Military Warehouse, which is going to be the second map in this best of 5, and that's a team deathmatch scenario. And looking at the eliminations, this is going to be probably a map that Indian Wolves are going to be looking to take away. But before that, let's have a look at the MVPs and see who was the most valuable players on either side here in this first map of this best of 5. And on the side of Indian Wolves, that's going to be Ghost sitting at 194 points, 10 eliminations, 4 assists, and only 6 deaths.
It's interesting that the scoreline difference is by a whole 10 points, but if you take a look at the damage that's been inflicted, like Boxer sitting at 10 eliminations, that was a pretty close affair there in terms of scoreline and performance between those two MVPs. But obviously we can't really tell the whole, tale by just looking at, the two players and how they performed. And I guess, okay, we're already jumping into Military Warehouse. It looks like Team Deathmatch will be upon us, and that's going to be our second map of the best of 5.
Indian Wolves just probably keen to put the final nail in the coffin so they can secure it very quickly here. Actually, things have already been opened up, and it's currently Prestigious in the lead with 70 points of their own. Boxer sitting comfortably at a double elimination, even against the triple here, as well as he peeks over that ledge. And great use of the map, I must say, from Prestigious right now. And Indian Wolves surely feel slightly dazed off the fact that they're 100 points behind right now with Prestigious.
Oh, this is looking very good right now for Prestigious. Look at the lead that they have here. With them now having such a strong start, they don't necessarily have to continue playing that aggressively. They can just play it safe here, but we are seeing some of these trades happening here across the map. Ravi ready with the Geo-Launcher, but he won't succeed there just yet. Indian Wolves, as they do have themselves quite a long way until they can secure themselves the victory, they do have a solid foundation to continue on with the comeback.
I do think that Prestigious have slightly overstepped their boundaries here in a few of those engagements, as Indian Wolves starting to make a comeback now, only 60 points behind Prestigious. So they managed to cut that point lead down by 40 here. Now Boxer does seem to have the help of Mighty on his side as they find Ravi ready, and now we're going to be running into the opponents in the middle part of the map there. Rice able to find elimination, but very quickly Tekken and Mighty both finding follow-ups on that one, so still 60 points in the lead for Prestigious.
There's still the possibility of Indian Wolves to maybe make the comeback happen here, but Prestigious, thus far they've done a solid job at actually stopping it from happening. They're finding the necessary eliminations to still keep on to their streak, but I don't necessarily like the fact that they've been playing this one by their lonesome, peeking out there one by one, and now we do have Ghost here with the double elimination. There's still a pretty big difference here between the two teams. So now Mighty holding the angle. He does have some of his teammates backing him up here, but look at this. Ravi Reddy is going in there through the fire, but that's the thing. Indian Wolves, they do have the players to make the push happen here, and Rice is going to continue on bringing the pain here as he does bring a triple elimination for the team, and Indian Wolves only 4 points away from actually equalizing the scoreline.
Okay, pressure on for Prestigious right now as they definitely overstepped their boundaries at some point. Indian Wolves have come back into this Ravi Reddy finding eliminations here, even gets a double elimination as Hope is back, also finds one of his own. Rice gets a revenge there, and now Indian Wolves 20 points in the lead over Prestigious. 2 minutes on the clock here, 100 points required before Indian Wolves can run away with the victory here.
Let's see how this one's going to turn out here. Indian Wolves thus far are in the lead here, but how long? That's the question, because we do have guys like Boxer finding the necessary eliminations here in Indian Wolves. Now they've put themselves in a position where, in all fairness, they're going to have to be very quick on their approach. There's very little time to work with, and they're finding the necessary elimination. This could be very close here between the two teams. There's a combo breaker from Ghost. He's going for more. There's only 3 points remaining.
Second
and this
in
could
danger.
be equalized. There's the elimination streak, and that's going to be enough. Ghost secures the victory, and so do Indian Wolves.
Oh my god, what a comeback from Indian Wolves here. So they very quickly lost the match at the very beginning for roughly about 100 and 120 points, and they were able to get gradually those points back, and already around 300 points on each side. You can see the tendency to start to appear for Indian Wolves, that they're going to be coming back into this, and obviously that does come off the back of the fact that Prestigious, even though they were in the lead of about roughly 150 points, they were overstepping that middle part of the map, which they did recognize as a mistake, and they did start to play off more towards their side, but that was already at the stage where Indian Wolves were only about 50 points behind. So essentially, Prestigious sort of gave it away from their perspective. And obviously now towards the end, Indian Wolves showing again why they are in that second position in the standings, because they were able to come back into this match and steal the second map here. So let's have a look at the MVPs and see. I do think it's going to be Ghost on this side of the Indian Wolves. Indeed, sitting at on 194 points, 10 eliminations, 4 assists, and even he found 3 eliminations in those final moments. That was the clutch victory for them. And on the side of Prestigious, Boxer, 204 points, 10 eliminations, 4 assists of his own, but 2 more deaths than Ghost, and therefore really didn't play out in favor of Prestigious on the second map. So whilst it was definitely a dominant performance coming out from Indian Wolves in the first map, the second did go slightly closer, but still in favor of Indian Wolves. So the question is, how will they perform in Wild West Saloon?
Yeah, it's going to be quite interesting because, again, we can stress the fact that the early start, it was looking very well for Prestigious. They were the ones that find the initial multi-kills, and that allowed them to get some of them early score. And the thing is, though, when you're getting all those multi-eliminations in a row, the problem is that your player can get, if he gets, being shut down, the opponents get a combo breaker, which means that they themselves will get from one elimination about 20 or 30 or so points. That is quite a lot. So that's kind of the thing that happened at the very end of our matchup. We saw that the Indian Wolves players, one of them was able to eliminate the opponent who had, the multi-kills racked up. He got the combo breaker, and then he continued on pushing forward and secured the last elimination, and that was the turning point. That was when Indian Wolves secured the victory.
Yeah, that was a risky move coming up from Ghost there, but it doesn't matter now, as we are going to be jumping into map number 3, Wild West Saloon, King of the Hill scenario between Indian Wolves and Prestigious here. For Indian Wolves, they just need one more victory here before they can secure the series, or is this going to be one of the biggest comebacks that we might potentially see if Prestigious start to racking up these victories here? They do open things up great here as Chattery finds the opening elimination here. Might he able to follow up and take it as well? So they very quickly, Prestigious are going to capture these points, and Indian Wolves are yet to find one, but it does look like it's going to be a remake.
Oh, looks like there's some issues. But of course, guys, stay with us. We do hope that the issue is going to get fixed here as soon as possible. We do have our wonderful team of admins.
It's
They're
probably
get them
just
fixed.
lag of
Yeah,
internet
probably
connection or
so.
something. So it's just a matter of reconnecting, jumping back into the match. Now, Prestigious did start opening things up quite
Very
good.
quickly.
But we also saw that on Farming Complex.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, Indian Wolves came in with just a complete massacre. So is this going to be the same here on Wild West Saloon? I do think it's going to be the same scenario. I think Indian Wolves will just want to come out with super aggression. They'll probably walk together as a huge unit and just clean house.
Like, that's the thing. On a map like Saloon, you have the great opportunity. If you do win some of those early engagements, there's always the case of you then being in possession of map control. And with you having said map presence, you can have your players actually play close by the spawns, and you'll go for a bit of a campy style where you're hiding right behind the corner, and then say opponent does go through you and doesn't even check you. That's a great opportunity to rack up some of those easy eliminations. And then again, the players have to go back to spawn, and that's going to waste some valuable time. So I actually like the approach there from the team that, they got themselves the early lead by finding those early eliminations, and they didn't just stand still. They continue on pushing forward to find some of those great angles so they could hold when it came down to an opponent's push.
Yeah, I think early aggression is definitely a key factor on Wild West Saloon here, because as I already mentioned, having the advantage of capturing that point early
Mm.
on and making sure that you can waste the time of your opponents, even if you go down in the process, as long as you have pushed far enough into the map towards your opponent's base and just wasting their time trying to clear out those corners, those are still points taken away in your favor. So even if you go down, respawn, then your opponents are going to be on low health and you'll be able to trade more effectively. So that's essentially how pretty much this goes down here. So question is, who is the more successful aggressive team early on here, as obviously it slightly fits more this sort of a game style in Wild West Saloon. And of course, again, who can abuse the balcony and who can make use of that inner side of the saloon.
Yeah, because the saloon itself, does have these two sort of playing fields, I guess you could call them. You have the inner part of the saloon, in which you can actually be close by, say, the bar. And if
Yeah.
you hold that angle, you obviously have clear vision on the side there. That's, you can see your opponents, trying to take over the control point, and you can get very easy eliminations in that regard because you do have the vision. In the other respect, there's always the balcony that you just mentioned there. And while it's being on that balcony position, you obviously have free reign to see any of your opponents, say, on the control point. And that's the thing, if you're going to be on that balcony, you can lay down some of that easy eliminations from that upper part, because after all, if you have your opponents on the side, they're going to have to look up, and that's a very awkward movement to be making. And whilst they're moving up, there's always a great possibility for you to come in with, say, a G-Launcher and find an easy elimination, or even with a sniper rifle. That is a very powerful position.
All right, well, let's see which positions either side takes, as we're going to be jumping back into Wild West Saloon here. King of the Hill between Indian Wolves and Prestigious for that third, fourth place here in Cup number 7. So hopefully everything goes smoothly. As you can see, everyone has connected, and very early on you can see that Indian Wolves want to take control over that balcony. It's actually a pretty even spread here, and the first engagements go through Chattery yet again, the man opening things up here for the side of Prestigious. But Ravi Reddy able to trade very effectively there, and currently Indian Wolves are actually in control of that capture point.
Yeah, they are in control of it. We are seeing Hope is back. We then find some important eliminations there. He does have teammate Rice to back him up, and these are some fine eliminations being found here by Indian Wolves, and that's the thing. 170 points for them, and they're also going to continue on with the whole here. There's another elimination here by Rice. He's doing such a solid job here. Look at him go. He's able to find the necessary eliminations, and he puts his team almost 100 points ahead.
Yeah, Rice still alive here. Needs to be mindful of Boxer on the right-hand side. Now Boxer is able to find elimination. Rice tries to engage there, but unfortunately too many opponents right now, as the point is going to be recaptured by Prestigious here. Still 70-point lead for Indian Wolves, and Ghost tried to make his way towards that side. Didn't really work out here, and Indian Wolves need to be careful here. They're starting to lose their lead just off the fact that they're engaging one by one.
That's the thing right now. Prestigious, with them now having full control, they're going to continue on with the early aggressiveness here. Hope is back, hoping to find that elimination, but he does have Rice to back him up. And now I do believe the control point will be recaptured here by Indian Wolves, but he still must contest with Boxer. He's finding some of these damages with his Odin, and that's the thing right now. Rabbit Reddy's here, is going to hope to find that one, but no, Mighty will come out on top. And that's an important G-Launcher, though. We don't really see it on the feed, but we can definitely tell you that Hope is back. He's finding the necessary eliminations right now.
Hope with the clutch play even finds a follow-up onto Tekken with the Blade Master there. Now Prestigious trying to make their way towards the side, but the aggression from Indian Wolves prevents them from doing so, and Rice has been impeccable in this match. He's super aware of everything that's going on right now, putting up valuable eliminations. That explosive onto the ground, perfect aim and double elimination. Even the triple coming out from Hope is back, and Hope is back indeed for Indian Wolves as they manage to secure the 200-point lead.
This is looking pretty good right now for Indian Wolves. So they're going to be able to continue on with the solid hold. This could be enough for them. Now, there we go. There's Ravi Reddy. He's got the rifle out. He's hoping to find some of these eliminations, but Mighty's doing a fine job at holding things down. And now I do believe the control point, it's not even being contested by this point. Not a single team wants to take over it. Of course, if you're Prestigious, you want the players to respawn in to continue on here. Look at the damages being dealt there on the control point itself. There's so much explosiveness going on there. And there there's the Blade Master to boot. This is looking so good right now for Indian Wolves. For them, it's only 100 points difference before they secure themselves the 3rd place finish.
Yeah, things start to look really bleak for Prestigious as they make for a final attempt onto this capture point. They're gonna recapture it indeed. They still need to deal with Ghost, who's on the flank, and Hope is back, just dropped down from the balcony, making use of that elevated surface. Tekken is gonna go down, and that is going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. Indian Wolves very easily secure this 3rd map as well. And oh my god, I must point out Rice on the side of Indian Wolves. Just impeccable performance in this match. He has obtained so many crucial double eliminations in situations where you feel like that's it, Prestigious are going to overtake this one. Nope, Rice comes in, cleans house, and obviously offers the opportunity for Indian Wolves to come back into the match and of course secure that valuable capture point. So a very action-packed, I must say, Wild West Saloon. And the Wild West very fittingly suits the name here, as Indian Wolves do secure that 3rd position, and therefore Prestigious are going to be securing that 4th one. So still not all is lost. Prestigious did get $100 off the back of that.
Not bad.
Not bad. Okay, still doable. Still 40 points. Still bragging rights. But speaking of bragging rights, let's see who's going to brag about being the MVP of this match. And let's see, is it going to be Rice on the side of Indian Wolves? It's actually going to be Hope, and I must say Hope as well. He was on that balcony continuously. You can see 271 points, 12 eliminations, 5 assists on the back of his. So that's a pretty impressive feat.
Yeah, and we obviously saw some of those, I guess you could call them opportunities, where you had the Geo Launcher, you continue on pushing on the control point, and he was able to rack up those multi-eliminations. That was really well done there by Hope there from Indian Wolves. And that's the thing, you might also have game modes like Team Deathmatch, where you have your players popping out, but also in King of the Hill, you can have your players also have a splendid game, and they can help you secure the victory.
And of course, on the side of Prestigious, it was Chatri, sitting at 198 points, 8 eliminations, 8 assists, and even 8 deaths. So triple eights for himself there. Unfortunately, that was just simply not enough. And I was slightly fearful of Indian Wolves towards that middle part of the match there, where sort of Indian Wolves tried to throw themselves onto the capture point one by one, and it started to look like Prestigious are really going to come back into this. But of course, as previously mentioned, with the Hope of Rice, and Hope is back from Indian Wolves, they were able to continuously recapture that point, continuously eliminate their opponents, and able to finish this match with a several 100-point lead.
Yeah, it was quite well done indeed there by the two teams, but obviously congrats to Indian Wolves for securing themselves the 3rd place finish. But now, guys, the grand final will be upon us relatively soon enough, but before that, we shall take a quick break, and we do hope to see you all there for the grand final. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Of course, it's going to be grand final time here anytime soon. We do hope that you were able to grab yourself a beverage and a snack, and might as well even play maybe some Guns and Boom. I do heard there's a new event going on there by the name of Heroes. Hope you were able to participate. But of course, guys, it is grand final time, so I'm going to need you to stay concentrated. This is going to be it. This is our last grand final here for the Spring Cup. Of course, we had 7 weeks, 7 long weeks here going on, but now our last one is here. So, Beneficus, this should be quite the interesting game now, shouldn't it?
Indeed, Cyclone GG going up against Unkilled. But before that, let's give a shout out to all of the viewers in terms of how we got here. And let's have a look at the brackets and see what went down today. So obviously in that first match, Cyclone GG did go up against Prestigious, where with a very clean victory, I must say, they did manage to secure that spot in the finals. And Unkilled were going up against Indian Wolves, where Unkilled had a very fearsome match with Indian Wolves, securing that first victory with a 1-point lead, and now afterwards were able to follow up. Therefore, in the finals, up against Cyclone GG. For Unkilled, I must say there's a huge task in front of them.
Yeah, it is going to be a pretty difficult game there for the Unkilled roster, no doubt. No doubt about it, but we have to note that in the past, when these two teams have met in the grand finals of all places, Unkilled, they definitely showed us some great performance. We even saw them take a map away from the Cyclone players. Who knows that, in a scenario like this, where you have Cyclone GG, who have already qualified for the Pro Series finals in Brazil, do they even need to, play too hard? Maybe they're going to allow a team like Unkilled to maybe secure a map or two, maybe even the whole series, just to show that, hey guys, we're pretty good. We want you to actually try to win something, try to accomplish something in your Guns of Boom career.
Do you think they have like a snobbish attitude towards...
Yeah, I wonder about it.
Okay, well, hopefully they keep things team friendly, and of course do respect their opponents and look going into this best of 5 series. So one more time, either side needs to secure 3 maps to have the overall victory here in cup number 7. It's all going to come down to as how these teams can open things up, starting with Farming Complex. Now one more time, that is a control point based map, so meaning a lot of it is going to come down to those quick rotations. Yet again, a lot is going to go down to that early aggression as to how quickly they can get the control of those control points. And of course, afterwards, being able to stick to that control, avoid those G launchers, which are very explosive today. Indeed, no pun intended. But in general, just the G launcher seems to be such a strong tool, especially when it comes to control points.
And I guess what we can also talk about, if we are, going to be heading into our first map anytime soon, Farming Complex may not necessarily be the map where you must hold the control points for as long as possible. You can actually even try to secure yourself a victory by having your players be as mobile as possible so that they could get those flank routes. And if, say, early on in the matchup, you say secure yourself the B and C points, then there's the possibility of you having the B players maybe go for a bit of a flanking route, go around the A control point, and then secure some of those eliminations that way. That's I guess, the beauty of Farming Complex. You don't necessarily have to play it in one style. You can play it however you want. But now, folks, it is time. It's grand final time here. Farming Complex control points. We're starting things off here, and of course, it is going to be your team's Cyclone GG up against Unkilled.
Okay, things have started already right now. The capture point A is going to be in control of Unkilled. In the meantime, huge havoc being wreaked from the side of Unkilled as they managed to get almost a clean sweep here. And that was the last man, Gunner, trying to hold on to that C capture point. Unfortunately, is going to go down. So very quickly, a 70-point lead for Unkilled roster here. Cyclone GG looking to come back into this. Unfortunately, Heisenberg can't really do much in that situation. Just simply too many opponents as Moriarty finds a double elimination of his own and looking to capture that B control point.
This is looking pretty good right now for the Unkilled roster. The G launcher comes in, but it's not going to be too effective there. At this point, if you're the Cyclone GG team, you're finding yourself some very nice eliminations. I'll give him that. But that's the thing, there's being the point of contention right now is in fact the ACP, which is being taken over there by the Unkilled players, and thus far, Cyclone, they must fight back in order to reach the points here of Unkilled.
Cyclone have managed to successfully capture that C point, and B is also looking that it might go their way. That explosive from Gunner and gets the double elimination as well. The Blade Master comes out from skilled here, so he does manage to take care of Gunner eventually there. Still, now only a 50-point lead for the side of Unkilled now, as Exorder finds another elimination and opening things up towards that A capture point. In the meantime, action happening towards C, as it is going to be recaptured by Cyclone GG in the meantime. But as I say that though, things very quickly change as Unkilled roster just continuously rotating around the map here.
We are seeing here a bit of Heisenberg and Blaze to get this one together, but look at his Gunrag. He's finding the necessary eliminations to stop the B control point from being capped. And there's Exorder. The G launcher gets the job done, but the problem is right now, Cyclone, it's great and all that you're finding these eliminations, but the problem is you don't have the score to actually compete against Unkilled thus far. Unkilled has been able to show us some great stuff here on Farming Complex.
So it's such an expressive a feat coming out from Unkilled, and on the side of Cyclone GG, looking at the points, it looks like Heisenberg is slightly lacking behind. I mean, you really need the man to show up here where it's super crucial. The man has been such a valuable player on the side of Cyclone GG, but continuously Moriarty on an elimination streak right now, just wreaking havoc together with Gunrag.
This is looking good right now for Unkilled. If they're going to keep up the pace, there's a high probability that they will secure the very first map here, Farming Complex, and in all fairness, that seems to be about right. There's Gunner going down as Gunrak will find some of these eliminations, and right now for them, 70 more points, and that's going to be map done and dusted.
Yes, and with a very impressive 300-point lead as well, Unkilled definitely have come out with a huge statement towards Cyclone GG. But as I say that, though, all three capture points, it looks like they're going to be in control of Cyclone GG. Unkilled do find an elimination or so here. They still need to find one more, if I'm not mistaken. So Gunrak just needs to get Heisenberg out of the picture, and that is going to be it. Unkilled will actually secure that first map, and I'm slightly surprised.
In a decisive manner, wasn't it?
Yeah, in a super decisive manner. I was definitely not expecting a 300-point lead coming through for the roster of Unkilled. So props to them. Obviously, that super early aggression that came out, capturing that C capture point, as well as then instantly following up on that B capture point, finding the clean elimination for the whole roster of Cyclone GG and resetting them essentially back to their own base does mean that they started off very convincingly, and obviously afterwards they were able to continuously follow up. And for Cyclone GG, it seemed just a bit messy in terms of how they tried to recapture those points. I mean, they were going in not necessarily one by one, but there were slightly bigger gaps between the players that are coming in as a backup. So therefore, it gave enough time for the Unkilled roster to find those eliminations and to be able to trade more effectively. And obviously as well to fall back and heal up.
Which is also a very important thing. You know, of course you want to be continuing on pushing on forward, but that's the thing. If you say have an engagement with your opposition, if you end up losing a decent amount of HP, sometimes it does make a lot more sense to just maybe back away and try to heal up on your healing items than just continuously push on forward. Otherwise, you can be very easily eliminated because you do have a very little HP to work with. But yes, you know, in our very first map here, Farming Complex, you know, Unkilled, they come out the gates screaming and kicking. They've done a solid job at actually proving that they're worthy of the grand final spot here, and thus far with the first map going in their favor, something tells me this could be quite the exciting best of 5 on our hands.
Indeed, and for Cyclone GG as well, I'm slightly surprised that we didn't see Heisenberg really showing up, but let's have a look who did, and let's have a look at the MVPs on the side of Cyclone GG. We are going to see Blaze sitting at 189 points, 11 eliminations, 2 assists, and 10 deaths. Now, that's quite a lot, though. And for the side of Unkilled, Gunrag, 260 points, 13 eliminations, 9 assists. Now, he obviously was a huge part of Unkilled's victory here on Farming Complex. And looking now heading into Military Warehouse, the team deathmatch mode, I do think that Cyclone GG are probably slightly shook by that first loss. The question is, will that affect them? Because obviously they are still battling it out for a decent amount of money, and heading into Brazil, you really need to make sure that you have enough of pocket money to make sure that you can obtain valuable touristy stuff to take back with you.
Of course. How else? You're going to be making yourself a pretty long journey from home. Might as well get some great stuff there from Brazil. But yes, we are going to be able to jump into our second map relatively quickly. And as we do, Military Warehouse, that I think is a good point of contention here. It is Team Deathmatch. The Cyclone roster have been looking very solid here in Team Deathmatch game modes, but Unkilled, they seem to be here for a good reason. They want to secure themselves the grand final victory, so let's get it on here. Military Warehouse, Team Deathmatch, and already we are seeing the engagements here. Of course, it's Blaze with the Blade Master. Might as well change his name to Blade, and now Cyclone. They do have themselves the lead, but it's not the biggest one. In fact, Unkilled, look at these eliminations. They're working out for them. They're finding them, and they've got themselves 9 points in their favor. Make that now 21.
21. Quick maths, indeed, as now Blaze will finally able to put up another elimination of his own. Exhorter there even finds a trick elimination on top of Skilled in the form of a Blade Master. Now Blaze needs to be careful here, not overstepping his boundaries. Actually, he's going to come out on top over this engagement with Gunrag. Finds another one, and that's a double elimination for him as Exhorter finds yet again one more. And very quickly, Cyclone GG have overtaken the lead, currently only by 30 points, but still being in the lead does mean that the pressure is on for Unkilled to find these eliminations and to get those engagements. You can see they are grouping up right now. Gunrag finally able to open things up. Gunner goes for the Blade Master, finishes things off with the shotgun. So trades going backwards and forwards here towards this middle section, but actually Unkilled are going to come out on top. And now the ball is towards the side of Cyclone GG as they are the ones looking for those elims.
But this is good right now for Unkilled. They're able to find some of these necessary eliminations, and it doesn't look like they're going to be slowing down anytime soon. They continue on with the push. That's a double elimination being picked up, but because the player ends up dying, that's Cyclone GG getting themselves some valuable points. But that's the problem. They're still not in the best position to actually contest here for this map. Look at this Gunrag. It does have his teammates backing him up, so they will find the elimination. But this is solid right now for Unkilled. They don't even necessarily have to continue on playing aggressive. That's going to be X-Quarter with the sniper elimination. And at this point, like, come on, Unkilled. If you want to secure yourself the victory here, you got to play this one safe.
Yeah, you definitely need to play this one safer. In the meantime, though, Cyclone GG do prefer to push up close here. Exhorter actually had a very decent shot there, didn't manage to get the elimination off the back of that. Gunrag as well now from back lines, looking to see if he can spot anyone towards these pathways. He's going to go and put down the explosive there. That deals quite a lot of damage, but it doesn't matter as Unkilled are able to trade very effectively here as Lionheart finds another elimination and putting... I don't think he suspects that Heisenberg is just behind the corner there, but Heisenberg as well, being on low health, not really able to push forward that much. As you can see, Skilled very quickly does take him down. Now pushing towards that middle part of the map. Is going to go for that flank, finds another elimination, but Blaze able to trade their blades, finds Moriarty in the middle of nowhere, no cover for him, nowhere to hide, and very quickly Cyclone GG have, well, essentially cut down the point lead only to 40.
And now we do see the Unkilled players. They're actually going to continue on with the push here. I'm not sure if that's the right decision. We are seeing some engagements happening here on this part of the map, but Unkilled, like, they almost got themselves the victory. They can almost taste it, but that's the thing. Moriarty once more, he's going in there with the eliminations. He will be taking down the Exhorter, but by this point, like, this is looking solid right now for the Unkilled guys. If they're going to keep up the pace as they do right now, that should be enough to secure the victory.
Yeah, Skill wanted to finish things off on his own. Unfortunately, ran into too many opponents right now. And as you can see, the Unkilled roster not overstepping their boundaries. Cyclone just waiting to see if they can spot anyone. And that was Exhorter able to take down Gunrag now. Gunner finds an elimination of his own. Exhorter as well. Only Skilled right now from the side of Unkilled has managed to find an elimination. But this is it. Unkilled need just one more elimination. After just Moriarty got one in order for them to secure the second map right now. And it's absolutely crucial that nobody from Cyclone GG goes down. They are playing passive right now. Skilled with the flank, unfortunately, will not be successful. But Moriarty with the double elimination with the G-Launcher will find great success. And that does mean that Unkilled actually secure a second map here. Now sitting only one more map away from a victory here in the finals.
Yeah, this is not what I expected. I obviously talked about it being a possibility that a roster like Unkilled may secure a map or two. This is probably a scenario in which if you have a team like Cyclone GG, they're probably not putting in their most effort in order to win. But even so, like, I am surprised to see that Unkilled are able to rack up those eliminations and even now have a 2-map lead against Cyclone.
Indeed, so super impressive stuff coming out from Unkilled, and I think it's just off the back of that they have had such good games today in terms of being on point, able to come back into those matches, having the proper amounts of aggression required, perhaps slightly even too much looking back at this last match where Skilled slightly overstepped his boundaries, but still played out in the favor of Unkilled. So let's have a look at the MVPs and again see who really stands out here in this map of Military Warehouse. So on the side of Cyclone GG, it was Exhorter with 164 points, 11 eliminations, and 4 assists. Good job coming in from him.
And of course, on the Unkilled side, we do have Skill. 182 score, 12 eliminations, 4 assists, though the player has actually died a decent amount of time. He's actually died 11 times, but it was still turns out to be that Skill has found a decent amount of impact. After all, 12 eliminations is a pretty big number here in Team Deathmatch.
Yeah, and of course it's all about those elims. It's all about getting those points for your team and able to secure almost a half of what is required in order for you to obtain the victory on that Team Deathmatch mode is quite an impressive feat indeed. So next map we're going to be heading in is Wild West Saloon. So as you have said so many times before as well, a map that is very favorable and also is very punishing in terms of you being able to get that control of the capture point very quickly, and then afterwards a lot of it is going to ride on the shoulders of how teams play around this capture point, how they utilize the balcony. And also something that you see is a lot of the teams do tend to play around more the saloon area, not so much apart from the rest part of the map. So I do think that for Cyclone GG that does open things up, because probably Unkilled roster is going to be more focused on that capture point than anything else, and that does set things up for great flanking possibilities.
Yeah, and in a map like this, I mean, it's King of the Hill, you know, you don't necessarily have to fully commit to the control point take just yet. I mean, you still have a whole 5 minutes on the clock. One of the good ways you can actually try to get an early lead is by finding the early eliminations and then trying to take over the control point. So I can understand the position of a team, maybe not necessarily taking over the control point at first, but say at first acquiring some map control, say in the saloon area. You have some of your players in the saloon, someone in maybe even the balcony there. Those are some fine positions, and then you can rain some serious havoc.
Well, speaking of havoc, we are going to be jumping into Wild West Saloon literally in just a few seconds here, and as we do that, I do wish the best of luck for both sides here, as it is a matter of who is going to come out on top here. If it's the Unkilled roster, then they're going to be securing the series here, and they're going to be securing that first position in Cup number 7. The first shots already are being fired here. As you can see, the exchanges happening backwards and forward, and Heisenberg is going to be opening things up here. A name that definitely needs to stand out right now. But in the meantime, Skilled comes in with a double elimination of his own and giving that slight point lead in the form of 50 points for the Unkilled roster.
And now we do see the Unkilled players. They do have the control point to their name, and this is what I'm talking about. On a map like Wild West Saloon, it doesn't make a lot of sense to be sitting at one place. You can have guys like Skill going in for the big flank. He's there, and he's with the elimination. Now as the respawns do kick in, Unkilled, they do have themselves a pretty significant lead thus far.
Yeah, the combo breaker coming in from Gunner in that situation was very valuable for Cyclone GG, as they do manage to narrow down that point lead that they have, and they're actually going to be in control of that capture point. But Exhorter here struggling to stay alive as 3 members from Unkilled are on the capture point. Blaze even eliminates himself with the G-Launcher. Nice attempt, poor execution unfortunately there, as now Heisenberg finds a double elimination of his own, even spots Moriarty there on the balcony. Moriarty still staying alive, has Skilled as backup right now, and both Blaze and Gunner trying to take care of the balcony situation right now will be able to do that successfully, but still a 50-point lead for the Unkilled roster.
But that's the thing, now the control point is going back in their favor. However, as they say so, the Cyclone players have respawned. They're coming in here hot. Moriarty's going down. Now we are seeing one of the players there skilled, in fact, hoping to find some of these eliminations. He could use the backup of his own teammates, and that's the thing. Unkilled, they have respawn, but they aren't making the push happen here. I do believe one of the players, Blaze, is making some serious work there in the saloon, and now Lionheart, will they anticipate him in this position? They sure do, as Blades finds the elimination. I think, yep, the Flame's gonna get him, and right now, Unkilled, they are finding the necessary eliminations to still recap the point.
Unkilled here, looking strong right now as Gunnar, the last man standing here towards this capture point. Huge connection coming through with the G-Launcher. Blaze able to clean things up with the double elimination. Moriarty on low health is going to make way towards this site. It doesn't matter as Blaze with a comfortable triple elimination right now needs to make sure they can stay alive, dropping those shots onto Lionheart. That was in Blaze continuously on an elimination streak right now. Moriarty needs to turn around in time, and it doesn't matter, just Blaze manhandling Unkilled right now.
He's doing a fine job at it, and Blaze, yep, finally is going to be taken down. The combo breaker kicks in. But that's the thing right now. The Unkilled roster, they're pretty far behind here. Cyclone GG have doing a splendid job holding this control point, and now Moriarty. That's going to be a pretty important fight happening there, as if he finds the elimination, he can continue on with the flanks here. Now Cyclone GG, they have respawned, and they're already going to take over the control point. But as I say, so it is in fact neutral in this position, so Unkilled, there's still a possibility for them to still make the comeback happen, but there we go. There's Heisenberg from up and above, the position I've been talking about. It's a very powerful one indeed, and there's still trades going on back and forth. But Cyclone GG are getting ever so closer to that sweet, sweet victory.
Unkilled need to make quick ways towards that capture point and need to make sure that they can get rid of Gunnar, who's actually putting down a lot of shots from behind the bar still there. Finally, Gunrag able to get that elimination, closing down the point gap to roughly 150 right now. Still a long way to go for Unkilled to come back into this match. And for Cyclone GG, they just need a few more eliminations, a few more points before they will be able to secure the victory here. Gunrag does manage to find Heisenberg, but Exhorter was able to come back into this one. Now Skilled able to clean up, and Gunnar just might find what was required, but very quickly Lionheart with the reaction, turning around, getting that elimination, closing the point gap down to 55 seconds on the clock here as Unkilled are making their way towards the Cyclone GG players, and Cyclone GG just need a few more points. Oh my god, is this going to be a super close victory coming around from the Unkilled roster? And no, it's going to be actually Cyclone GG closing it out with a very close point gap between the Unkilled players. And I must say, Unkilled, for a second there, I thought that's it. They're going to run away with another 1-point lead victory here in the finals. That is not the case, as the series goes 2-1, still in favor on Unkilled. And this does put up skyscrapers on our radar, excuse me.
It does, and now if you're a team like Cyclone GG, you're thinking, well, that wasn't the easiest of games. That could have easily been a 3-0 sweep in the grand finals by Unkilled, but we obviously saw in those latter stages of maybe, I think it might have been the second minute, where we actually began to see the Cyclone GG players like Blaze stepping up massively in the control point. Without him, I honestly think this could actually be a map over in favor of Unkilled, so it's nice to see that the players from Cyclone GG were finally able to step up to the playing field, but surely it was really pretty much the individual performance. If you don't have the players stepping up, this could have easily been 3-0.
Yeah, Blaze for sure saved the day for Cyclone GG with his immense engagements and the amounts of eliminations he got. I think he got like continuous definitely 5, if not even 6 eliminations without dying to their opponent. So therefore, obviously, that racked up quite a lot of points for the side of Cyclone GG. I am still very impressed with the fact of how quickly Unkilled were able to close down almost a 200-point lead that was still in the favor of Cyclone GG here. So still super impressive stuff coming out from the Unkilled roster for Cyclone GG. They have managed to secure a map finally here, so this does mean that this actually might go even all 5 maps.
That's also a possibility I'm not denying. At this point, because the best of 5 has been pretty competitive, who knows how it's going to turn out, but it's a good opportunity as any to take a look at the MVPs of this map. Now, obviously, one of the players we've been talking about is Blaze here for Cyclone GG, but in fact, it's going to be Gunnar, who has racked up 222 score, 11 eliminations, but look at this, 10 assists, in fact. That's pretty massive.
Yeah, the man has been everywhere in every single engagement, and I must say, for the side of Unkilled, skilled 226 points, 14 eliminations, and 6 assists. Now, Skilled was super active, uh, definitely in the first part of the match, and obviously, of course, throughout the continuation. But during that first part, you actually saw that Skilled just continuously found eliminations and was on a huge rotation around the map all the time. He was behind enemy lines continuously, finding those eliminations early on, and obviously giving a lot of opportunity for the Unkilled roster to get those points. So very well job done. I must say that Skilled actually has been super active throughout today, and I would definitely hope that it's not going to go lost in Skyscrapers, because in Skyscrapers there are so many corners and angles that you can approach fights from, that I think that Skilled is again going to feel super comfortable with that.
And that seems to be like the map, at least from what we've seen, is where a team, if they're able to find themselves the early lead, they're going to begin playing it one very safely. Like, they're not going to be going anymore for any aggression unless it's maybe the early game. But in the latter stages, you're just going to be seeing teams playing it very safe. Like, they're just going to be camping close by their spawn and make sure they don't get eliminated.
And we're probably going to see a huge presence of sniper rifles as well, because on Skyscrapers there are so many narrow pathways that where the opponents are coming from, that it's very easy to get a shot in with the sniper rifle. And as well, there are plenty of elevated surfaces, especially if either side will be forced to overstep that middle part of the map and head towards the spawn of the opponent's base. Then you are greeted essentially always with sniper rifles in Skyscrapers. So question is, can Unkilled roster show us at the beginning of the match what they just showed towards the end, get a very convincing point lead, and close this series out? Or will Cyclone GG actually come out on top victorious here, meaning that this will finally be a 5-map match?
That could be the case. However, I wonder what's going to be the early approach here for either of the teams, because from what we've seen so far here in Skyscrapers, primarily if you're a team, you're going to be taking over the mid portion of the map. At least that's what we've seen, you know. Early on, you have the players picking up the avalanches. They're going to be making the straight-up push towards middle. And with them making that push there towards that part of the map, you do have yourself some early map presence, which is always a very nice thing. And who knows, maybe in the back of that early aggression, you can also find the early eliminations to secure them and then back away back to spawn.
Well, as I always say, just more G launchers. I still want to see more G launchers being used, because they're super useful of getting those double, triple eliminations, and having those narrow pathways here on Skyscrapers. I think that's a very great use of the weapon in general. If you can do that, especially if you can find those flanks. And still, I would be super curious to see both how Skilled and Blaze from either side perform, because they have been very active on those flanks, and Skyscrapers offering so many opportunities for them. I do think that they're going to be definitely like a complete nuisance for their opponent, unless of course the teams have definitely like a different game sort of approach, and perhaps they just want to start off things in a calm fashion and let their opponents push towards themselves and eliminate themselves that way.
That's the way to do it. We have seen these sort of self-eliminations happening here in the grand final at least a couple of times. Yeah, a few of them definitely happened. Bit of a shame how it turns out, but if you're going to be close up a wall, or maybe you're, I don't know, maybe some other surface, and you're going to be throwing down the G-launcher and your grenade, you got to be quite careful, otherwise you might explode, and that is never a nice thing to happen to you. And anyhow, I do believe our Skyscrapers matchup should be relatively starting quite quickly, but I suppose, you know, while we're talking about this, we just have to talk about the very simple nature of this best of 3 being a reality, how the Unkilled roster somehow have themselves a 2-1 lead in the best of 5 against Cyclone GG of all opponents.
Yeah, this does start to bring to my mind the fact that Cyclone GG might indeed play in a slightly more relaxed fashion. As you already mentioned, that they have the spot secured in terms of heading towards Brazil, towards the grand finals. So that might be the case. I still wouldn't want to think so, just because I do see that Unkilled are definitely, well, I wouldn't want to say a completely different roster, but they definitely have upped their game this week, number 7, in terms of comparison towards the last week or even the weeks before. So I do think also that for the Unkilled roster, in terms of, as long as they can keep up with this game style and continuously transition into this one, they are going to be definitely a stronger force to be reckoned with. I think it suits them. It's just that this aggression, the way how they obtain these eliminations, and just the fact that Skilled can continuously freely roam around the map. I think it's a game style that they should practice.
Yeah, they could definitely consider practicing it, but also one of the things they should also probably practice is on the aim. You cannot deny it, Benefit, because like the Cyclone players, they're filled with probably the best players in the Southeast Asia region, and for a good reason. At one point, they were called Too Easy for All Stars, and they were really a lineup of stars as they were able to shine every single matchup. You either have maybe someone like Heisenberg have a great game, maybe someone like Blaze stepping up massively, and that's the thing. When you have players like this who are probably the best players in your region, you can just very easily dominate your opponents without maybe necessarily without any proper strats or proper preparation.
Okay, well, we are hearing from the production team that we are going to be jumping into the match soon enough. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Skyscrapers between Cyclone GG and Unkilled roster this time. Here in a team deathmatch scenario for Unkilled, they just need a victory on this map to secure the series. For Cyclone GG, they need to secure this map if they want to take it to map number 5. And as you can see, teams are approaching this engagement cautiously, as now both Blaze with the help of Gunner by its side of him, looking to see if they can spot any opponents. And Moriarty as well, positioning himself in a cheeky position right now, but in the meantime, Skilled has found the first strike here very quickly, though. Both Blaze and Heisenberg finding those eliminations. Blaze now pushing forward here. Actually, Gunrag is going to come out on top in that engagement, offering his team a very quick point lead.
And with that lead coming into place, look at this already. The Unkilled players are playing this one quite safe. They're waiting for the aggression to come on in. It looks like it is happening. Cyclone, they have their individuals coming through there, the bushes. That is a very tight angles coming in there. And now in the mid portion of the map, we do have Skill there with the G-Launcher, of course. Some great eliminations being found out here. And look at this. It's almost a 100-point difference between the two teams.
And Exorder now finds Moriarty. There's really no need right now for the Unkilled roster to overstep their boundaries, as Blaze has found another opening. Skilled on the flank, unfortunately, will go down to Heisenberg, and that is the point lead cut down to 70 right now. Heisenberg needs to be super careful right now with the low health that he has. Needs to stick together with his team. Moriarty still somehow finds an angle there and does find his opponent. So Unkilled roster still in the lead right now. Skilled very tempted to challenge Blaze here, as in the meantime, Goodrag finds Exorder, and that G-Launcher, how does that not connect?
That's a good question, because it looked dead on the players, and now we do see Skill coming in with the Blade Master. Some great eliminations being found here by the Unkilled roster, and Exorder is out here by the bushes, but he doesn't see a single player here. Not to mention the opponents who are, like I said, they're playing this one quite safe. They know that you have the advantage. There's really no need to be playing this one quite aggressively, though Skilled, he's probably is the exception to the rule, as he's pushed up here all the way to the spawn, and now he's been tagged with the Incinerator. He has to be careful not to be consumed by the flames.
And what's interesting as well, you can see that on Cyclone GG's side, Gunner now finally finds his first points in this match with that G-Launcher, able to take down Moriarty. In the meantime, though, Skilled still able to trade back, still not out of the bushes just yet for the Unkilled roster, as they are, of course, understandably approaching this one very carefully. And Cyclone GG are also not really too keen on overstepping their boundaries, as right now Skilled will find Skeisenberg. He's going to be surprised by Exorder just on that quick flank. He did try to go for that Blade Master, didn't work out. Gunrag with the G-Launcher will find Exorder here, so that's great stuff coming out. Continuously upkeeping that 100-point lead for the roster of Unkilled. And Blaze needs to be careful here, misses those shots. Skilled able to find Blaze, falling back now and leading Heisenberg towards his teammates. Heisenberg very quickly seeing 4 of his opponents, obviously understands that he needs to fall back ASAP.
And now the Unkilled players, they've gone for these engagements here, and some of them are quite low in HP, so this is the great opportunity for Cyclone to maybe secure some of these eliminations, because the players just simply don't have the HP to work with. And that's the thing, we are seeing the aggression coming in, the grenade is thrown out, but Blaze is still able to survive and live the tail. But that's the situation for Cyclone. They just have to play this one aggressively. I'm not really sure why they themselves are playing this one quite passively. And there we go. That's Skilled with a triple elimination. That's extra points in their pockets. And right now, the lead is by 150 points. Unkilled are looking so dominant right now.
And Cyclone GG really need to start working on their opening. Still only another minute on the clock right now. And this is a make it or break it for Cyclone GG, as already 424 points for the side of Unkilled. Gunrag on a triple elimination, sitting very comfortably towards those back lines, and Cyclone GG trying to group up, going for that push, and it's actually going to be the Unkilled roster taking the fight to them right now. As you can see, huge connections being made. Lionheart finding another opening. Skilled gets a Blade Master of his own, and it does look like that Unkilled will be able to close out this match unless Cyclone GG have something to say about it, but it really looks unlikely right now.
At this point, if you're the Unkilled roster, you're in the great position, probably the greatest you've ever been, to secure yourself the victory here in the Grand Finals against the best team, Cyclone GG. They're now 11 points away from securing themselves the victory here. The first place finish, and the Blade Master is there, and what a way to end it. That's going to be it, folks. Unkilled are your champions here, and they secured the victory against Cyclone GG of all opponents.
Indeed, in what fashion as well. Skilled, the man of the hour. As I already said, I wanted to pay extra attention to him. He was the man who put the final nail in the coffin for Cyclone GG, and I do think that he racked up the most amount of points for his team for the cycle of Cyclone GG. I'm slightly confused as to why they didn't really have more aggression here on Skyscrapers, because obviously they were sitting like, well, for the better part of the match, 100, 150 points even at times behind Unkilled's roster. So therefore, they really had the initiative on their side in terms of approaching their opponents and finding these eliminations. And obviously, understandably, as we already mentioned during the match, the Unkilled roster really had no need to overstep their boundaries. The opponents really didn't visit them that much toward their side of the part of the map, but it didn't matter, as Unkilled were able to, well, what looked to be a very relatively easy victory for them. And this does start to bring questions to my mind in terms of how Unkilled roster will be doing in the summer season.
That's very interesting, because now, with them securing the victory here in the Grand Final against Cyclone GG, they're going to be feeling confident. Maybe, who knows, heading into the summer season, they might just be a bit more of a team we have to be on the lookout.
All right, well, let's see who stood out. Let's have a look at the MVPs. My bet is that Skilled is definitely going to be a man of the hour for the Unkilled side. Indeed, 223 points, 14 eliminations, and 5 assists. So he basically just did everything that was required from him and a lot more above, just to make sure that the Unkilled roster runs away with a victory here. And for Cyclone GG, Exorder, 96 points, 7 eliminations, 6 assists. Still the MVP for his team, but this does show and does bring questions to my mind. Where's Heisenberg? Where's Blade on Skyscrapers? Why are they the names, or even Gunner? Gunner actually for the first minute and a half, I think, was sitting on 0 points.
Yeah, he actually even mentioned it, that, he just didn't have a good start. It was pretty abysmal for him, and not only that, like the team itself. We actually have now Exorder as the MVP. We barely get to see his name on the MVP screen. If he's here, clearly something's not working out there for the team. And I guess, again, we just have to mention the very simple fact that this team has already qualified for the finals in Brazil. So maybe they're not playing at their 100%. Yeah, they're not giving it their whole heart in order to secure the victory.
They're mentally already in Brazil, so basically they're not here anymore. They're just thinking about how they're going to play this out in the grand finals. So let's have a look at the brackets one more time, just in case if anyone is tuning in right now, to quickly remind you guys how we got here throughout today. It's been a long day for everyone. So the first match was between Cyclone GG over Prestigious, where they secured that victory in a 2-0 fashion. Unkilled were able to find a victory over Indian Wolves roster in a 2-against-1 fashion, also minding that they did manage to secure one super clutch victory, thus boosting themselves in the finals, where they went up against Cyclone GG and Unkilled. And of course, in that third and fourth position, we did have Prestigious going up against Indian Wolves, and really Prestigious, well, didn't have a chance against Indian Wolves here in that third, fourth battle. So therefore, Indian Wolves are going to secure that third position. Cyclone GG in these finals are going to take that second position, and Killed will come out on top, getting those valuable points, getting those valuable monies, of course, for themselves. And I must say, it's been a very action-packed day.
It has been, and again, we actually saw, I guess you could call it a bit of a upset to some extent, that the fact that Unkilled roster were able to win the fight against Indian Wolves. But anyhow, I'm quite surprised, and I even wonder, how are the standings looking at this point? Because I think the race against, Unkilled and Indian Wolves, they had, I think, a similar score line, and, no, it wasn't really, it wasn't that close as I might have anticipated. And even though Unkilled, they get themselves a full 100 points, it's simply not enough to reach Indian Wolves.
Yeah, so Cyclone GG, of course, securing that first position, second place. Indian Wolves, even off the fact that they did secure only the third position in this cup number 7. Third are going to be taken by Unkilled, who have definitely shown extremely good potential for the summer season here. For Prestigious, and oh my god, it's J007. A bit more practice perhaps is required, even though saying that, Prestigious have shown good matches against Cyclone GG historically.
I guess we could also just talk about the dominance here of Cyclone GG. We can see now that they have 650 points. Let's do the math, guys. There have been 7 weeks of these weekly cups. 7 weeks. In order to secure yourself some points, say if you finish the first place, you get yourself 100 points.
Yeah.
So this does mean that out of the 7 weeks, a team like Cyclone GG has won 5 of them, and they've lost only 2 grand finals. So overall, that is a very dominant performance there from Cyclone GG.
And probably the new organization as well is extremely happy about the result of their team, regardless of the fact that they took only second place. I say only second place today, and are going to be looking towards those grand finals. For me personally, I am super stoked to see how the Unkilled roster has grown, and hopefully they'll be able to transition with that. For Indian Wolves, they were quite a dominating force for a good while. Perhaps it wasn't really their day going up against Unkilled's roster, but if anyone of you is interested in how that all went down, I definitely recommend looking back at the replay in terms of the match between Indian Wolves and Unkilled. There are interesting things to see there. And of course, for all the other teams that are sitting below the 4th position in the standings, there's probably a few things that you need to pick up from the other teams, because continuously we see these 4 names pop up and really nobody else. So hopefully there's enough learning material available for you guys.
Of course. How could there not be? We do have our lovely stream here going on still. It's going to be a great opportunity to maybe rewind, see what has worked out for the team. Let's see what sort of ideas we can take from our opponents. And if you guys are wondering, how on earth do we have teams like Cyclone GG, Unkilled, Indian Wolves, and Prestigious making it here to the top 4, that you have us 2 geezers talking about it? Well, it's very simple. You head on over to ESL, and you're able to participate in one of the many weekly cups that end up happening here throughout the seasons. Of course, spring season is over, folks. You're not going to be able to play it anymore. However, we do have a new season upon us. It is going to be the summer season, and it's going to be starting from May 11th. So, of course, if you want to try to give it your best shot at some of these weekly cups, who knows, maybe even secure a spot for the finals at the Pro Series, you can very easily do that. Grab your friends, grab your professional team if you have one. I don't know about that. If you do have someone to play, just register and give it your best shot at the upcoming summer season. Of course, that's pretty much going to be it here, I'd say. I mean, it's been looking like some great, fantastic spring seasons, but it is coming to a close.
And of course, do not forget about other regions, other streams. There are still plenty of games to be watched, and all the finalists and the victorious teams are going to meet in that huge grand final. So make sure you have a gawk at the other streams if you do have the opportunity, because obviously different regions might have different things to show and different game styles. So we talked about this in the beginning of our streams, and as well as always, there are historically been differences between different regions. So see what NA are doing, see what other regions are doing, and perhaps you have a clearer picture as to who might come out on top in those grand finals.
And that's the thing. We also have our colleagues at ESL who are running the streams for the European games, also for North America, and those are going to be happening today, folks. After 5 or so hours, be sure to tune in them to see who are going to be the last teams to secure a spot in the Pro Series finals in Brazil, because obviously North America and Europe, those are two of the de facto most competitive regions here in Guns of Boom, and you obviously have teams like Lazarus, Noble having some great success, but now even the last Pro Series finals in Texas, we obviously saw a team like Impact Gaming coming through, probably the best right now North American team. So that's going to be a very exciting finals in Brazil when you do have these teams from various regions like Latin America, Southeast Asia region, Europe, and North America.
And of course, Cyclone JG joining them as well now in the grand finals. I'm curious to see where they will actually place amongst all the titans essentially of the world right now. And probably also exciting times for the Cyclone JG players just to find out where they stand against all the best players in the world. And hopefully they'll be able to find a successful finish for themselves. And the best of luck to them.
Yeah, the best of luck to them right now for the Pro Series finals in Brazil. But again, guys, we're going to be back here with the broadcast next week, as we will be kicking off the summer season right now here for the Southeast Asia region. Be sure to tune on in, and even better yet, register with your friends and colleagues, and maybe you can actually make it through the top 4 and rack up those points and even secure yourself a spot in the Pro Series finals. But that's going to be about it from us, guys. Hope you enjoyed the broadcast, and see you all next week.